To Planning Commission for January 7th, 2026. We'll start the meeting off with a prayer from Commissioner Anderson and the Pledge of Allegiance after that by Commissioner Tupou.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful we can be here gathered tonight to represent Washington City. Please help us to consider the issues carefully, and please be with us as we discuss the issues at hand. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 1 tonight is approval of tonight's agenda.
Commissioner Tupou, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Commissioner Davis seconds the motion.
I have a first by Commissioner Tupou and a second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, is there any approval of the minutes from the December 17th, 2025 meeting?
Commissioner Davis, I make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th.
Commissioner Ure, I second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 3 is declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Does anyone have anything on the agenda tonight? All righty, we will just jump right in. Item 4A is C-25-15, a request for a conditional use permit for an extension to the maximum allowability sign height located at 867 West Buena Vista Boulevard. We'll turn the time over to Eldon.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval, as you stated there, to maximize the sign height at this location. City ordinance allows for a maximum of 35 feet for freestanding signs in the C2 and C3 zoning designations, with the exception for properties that are within 1,500 feet of a freeway exit, which they can apply through a conditional use permit for an extension of height up to 50 feet, which is why we're here tonight. The property described in this application is approximately 230 feet from the freeway exit. The applicant is asking for the maximum amount of height, which is 50 feet for the pole sign as detailed in the exhibit, and sits at the southeast corner of the property. There's the details for the sign. You see it's maxed out at 50 foot tall. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve C-25-15, allowing an extension to the maximum allowable sign height with the findings and conditions outlined in staff report. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Eldon, this is Commissioner Davis. Just a couple of quick questions. For perspective, what is the height of the Maverick sign? Is that currently at 50?
It is. They also obtained an approved conditional use permit to go to 50 foot tall.
Okay, thank you. And do you know if there are any plans at this point with respect to the Residence Inn or the Spring Hill Suites to request a similar variance?
I have not heard if they plan to do that.
And this, Eldon, this is just a sign for Panera. It's not a billboard for Riesco sign or whoever that it's a lease. It's with the building. It's not for other buildings, correct?
Correct, specific for Panera Bread. Yeah, we would not allow off-premise signage at this location, so it will need to maintain for Panera Bread.
Okay, that's what you're calling it. That's what they call them, as off sign.
Off-site premise signage.
Okay. Any other questions for Eldon? This is a public hearing. If anyone here would like to speak to item 4A, now's your chance. We'll open the public hearing. Okay, we will close the public hearing portion of this. And if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Motion to recommend approval for item C-25-15, conditional use permit for an extension of the maximum allowable sign height up to 50 feet at 876 West Buena Vista Boulevard, with the 4 conditions and 4 findings in the staff report.
Commissioner Davis seconds that motion.
First by Commissioner Tupou and a second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Does this go to City Council?
Does not.
Okay, that one passes. Item 4B, Z-25-24, request to rezone approximately 19.3 acres located at the northeast corner of George Washington Boulevard and Washington Fields Road from the current A20 zoning designation to a PUDC. And we'll turn this over to Eldon.
This site here is approximately 19.3 acres and has a general plan land use designation of CCOM, which allows for AP, C1, C2, and PUDC zoning designations. Here's the surrounding zoning here. To the north is A20. To the east is RA1 and PUDR, and A20 to the south, and PUDC to the west. The zone change request is for the purpose of developing the site into a commercial development. The applicant will be required and fully understands that they will need to bring the specific site design plan back to city for approval prior to any work beginning on the project. The proposal is seeking to identify ingress and egress on the site, which you can see there. They've proposing 5 locations there. Access number 1's the top left corner, which is a full access movement. Meets the distance requirements for that in accordance with our access management plan. And just below that is access number 2, which is proposed as a right in, right out. And then looking onto George Washington Boulevard there, access number 3 would be a full movement access. And then coming up Camino Real, access number 4 is also a full motion. And then in the top right corner is access number 5, which is also a full motion there. Along with this approval, there have provided a use list, which we can go into here and discuss that at this time. So this top left screen is currently as city code reads. And then the next column over are zones which each use is approved in within the city. And then the far right is what they're proposing for those uses to be approved. The first one is administrative, executive, professional, medical, and research offices. Second line item is banking and other financial institutions. And again, they're asking for that use to be a permitted use on this site. You can see it's allowed in the AP zones within the city. And feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions or concerns with any of these. Third item is automobile car wash not to exceed 4 bays. Also a permitted use on this land. Next one is automobile service stations, excluding major repair work such as engine or transmission rebuilding, body and collision repair, frame, and heavy-duty truck servicing. That's allowed in city zones of a C1 designation with conditional use permit. And they're asking for that to be a permitted use. The next line item is child daycare or preschool center, which meets all state and local regulations. Coffee shops. Commercial recreation and entertainment facilities, not to include sexually oriented businesses. The next line item, personal instruction services, including gym, dance, Pilates, yoga, and professional schools. Private business and technical schools. Reception center and/or wedding chapel. Restaurants, including full service and quick service dining. Restaurants, including a drive-through facility as an accessory use. Restaurants, including a drive-through facility as the primary use, accompanied by a patio. Bar establishment, which you can see there is a permitted use with condition of an alcohol overlay zone approval.
So how would that one work as far as this doesn't fall in? Or would we be approving an overlay zone with this? Is that what this is saying? Because this isn't in the overlay zone.
Correct, they would need to reapply for that overlay zone.
Okay, so I mean, with this approval, it doesn't automatically say that they're going to have the overlay zone of the alcohol use. They'd still have to come back in and apply for it? Or is it saying that this is approving it?
They will need to apply for the overlay
Okay,
zone.
all right, thank you.
Retail operation of cleaning, laundry, cosmetic, and repair services. Retail sales and/or rental of goods, merchandise, and equipment conducted wholly within an enclosed building. Animal hospital and veterinarian clinic, including overnight care of large animals. In parentheses is no boarding. Hospital, hotel or motel, mobile food vendor, motor vehicle, trailer, camper, and recreational vehicle sales agency. Retail and/or wholesale, sale and/or rental of goods, merchandise, and equipment, which may include storage and display outside an enclosed building. Examples include art shops, bank, beauty shop, bookstore, clothing store, drugstore, florist, laundry, theater, and variety store. State-approved and operated liquor store. And lastly is storage units. Staff does have concerns, as we noted in the staff report there with the industrial zones. Staff feels that those should be located more closely to industrial areas and did have concern with that use. Staff recommends the Planning Commission review the proposed use lists and make a recommendation to City Council based on the findings and conditions in staff report. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have.
This is Commissioner Ure. I just have a question about motor vehicle, trailer, camper, sales agency. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that one in this spot. Some of these are huge and some are small. Are there different classifications of those types of businesses? And is this just like carte blanche for any, like a big, RV store could come in there and just fill the whole, take 4 acres or something? Is that how this would work?
Yeah, we don't distinguish between classes of motorhome. If this is approved, they could bring in units that attach to a back of a truck or a larger RV type unit. It would include all of those uses as written today.
Does staff have any concerns about putting that in the center of sort of like more residential rather than like in more common places or those on the outskirts?
Yes, staff did discuss this use. There's concern there that this type of use may be better fit relative to, more of a visibility discussion there. The applicant chose to leave it on this use list.
Thanks.
That would still have to come in for a conditional use permit though, correct?
City code requires conditional use permit. They're asking that it be a permitted use. So if it's approved as written today, they would not need to come back for conditional use. However, it would come back for site design approval with a specific user.
So I was kind of following your question for Commissioner Ure. So this is 19.3 acres, and from the list of permitted uses, can one of those things come and take over all 19 acres? Just one use?
Good. Yes.
There is one layer that would be in the middle of that, which is this is a PUDC. And so the things in PUDs that have to come back to the council are site plans, layout, and some of those things, which I believe that layer would probably give an opportunity to address the concerns that underlie the questions that are being asked. And so even though this list may approve those uses as uses that they might consider and be able to ask for in a site plan, if the site plan were to have problems with the council, even though it's an approved list, an approved use on the list, they may still not be able to get approval if the site plan doesn't get passed.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Anderson. This is completely counter to how we do these things. I mean, it's like, it's not even in the realm of how this is supposed to be done. I mean, if what they're asking for is for us to create a new straight zone, basically, that gives anything, and all they have to do is submit a little bit of design plans. I mean, that's just silly. If they want a straight zone, then you've already got AP, C1, and C2 straight zone, and leave it, pick one of those, and there's your straight zoning. I mean, in theory, all these things they're asking for here, they could theoretically ask for them anyways with a PUD, but the whole point of the PUD is to bring in the plan for the whole area and say, this is what we're gonna do, this is what it's gonna, I mean, that's the whole reason for doing PUD. We have more leeway to give them flexibility, but in return, they give us a whole lot more information. To do this, to say, okay, we've now got our own special little commercial zone in the city to do whatever people want, I mean, we shouldn't even be talking about this. So, it's my 2 cents.
I don't think you're wrong, but it's also I see what you're saying. If they have something like that, I mean, coming in and asking for the design afterwards would be, I see what you're saying, but I understand.
Like we have had some people, limited instances, ask, to get the use approved so they could make sure they get their loan and so forth done. But it was for the entire project. It's like, hey, this is what we want right here. We're gonna have this use and this use and this use. And it was super specific for the whole thing. We approved it and then they brought the design in. We had a second meeting about design. That's not what this is. This is just, like you said, this is just carte blanche to create a brand new commercial zone that people can pick and choose, which if we're gonna do this, this is a discussion for city council to create another commercial zone, call it C3. I don't know. I mean, this is not how PUDs are supposed to be operating. It's not how we've ever done it.
This is Commissioner Ure. Yeah, it makes sense to me to look at the rezone site plan and where they're looking for entry and exit access points and stuff like that. Yeah, that makes sense, but that next page is a lot.
Commissioner Davis, and just to, provide my perspective on it, I'm struggling with the same thing. Because I can understand the zoning change and all of that, but we're looking at a kitchen sink here that, and I don't know if it's for marketing purposes or what have you, but you're looking at saying, okay, guys, go figure it out at a later date, and we're somewhat obligated to go along without really understanding what this may look like going forward and what the plan truly is. That's where I'm struggling a bit here.
And if they want to do that, that's why we have straight zones. Pick one of the straight zones that already exist. But you can't create a new zone. That's not what PUD is supposed to be for.
Commissioner Tupou, I see what you're saying. I think we've had this discussion a number of times. We're missing our appraiser guy or our realtor guy. But I think it's hard to determine what's going to be in this zoning until it's offered. Like you have to have people interested in the location and what it would potentially look like, and they might have their own design. So I see why it's coming in this way, but I also see that we want to know what it's going to look like and what would,
And what's the point?
yeah.
Rejected almost everyone that has asked for this. We've made them come back and present the whole plan. You can't do it piecemeal. If they want it piecemeal, they go straight zoning, and that's what they're asking for is just an expanded list of straight zone. And I know exactly why they want to. I get that, because they don't know exactly who the clients are going to be. But the whole point of doing a PUD is that you're putting together like a project, like you've got this vision for what kind of businesses you're going to attract and what it's going to look like. And if you don't have that, and you're not sure who is going to come, then you pick a straight zone. I mean, that's just how it works.
This type of an approach is something that's becoming more common from the city's experience with landowners, land developers, realtors, representatives of landowners. I would say it probably makes sense that those folks that are involved in the sale and acquisition of lands for purposes, the more expectancy they can have, the more they are able to put together deals or recognize that the deals aren't right. And so it makes sense, but it is, as you have said, it is, the cart is in front of the horse for the uses, especially as compared to the traditional zoning process that we've had. Now, PUDs and PCDs are a more modern tool that are meant to kind of allow expectancy, but also allow review. This is another, I'd say, another hybrid factor that's kind of trying to talk about the uses before you've seen a site plan. And so we understand why they're asking for it. We also understand that it's not probably that comfortable as far as process goes, because we don't usually see these things first.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. So based on that, is Corey's description kind of correct, I guess, in a way, with them and their approach? And you're saying this is kind of a new, or you're seeing it more and more. Is that something that we would expect? I guess I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, I see from what Corey has said the advantages, but then I do see the disadvantages too, to a planning commission and us trying to, plan for the city.
So what we see happening a lot is scenarios where buyer says, yes, I'll buy your commercial acres, but we'll set the closing date for, 7 days after you get final and full approval of all vestings for the use we're buying it for, which is kind of what this is doing, right? Trying to get the uses so they're known and guaranteed before they jump all the way into the pool. And so this reflects real estate industry realities, which is buyers are wanting some promises on vesting before they're willing to, invest in a piece of land. And so I think there's value to the city to see lists like this early and often. That the planners, the planning commission and the city council, those that are tasked with deciding, is this the right fit for our community? Is this the right fit for our code and our law, our city law? You probably need more than just the list to be able to to settle your minds on whether that is the right fit. And so nothing else, you can say, look, we see the list, these are the issues on the list that we think it must come out. The rest are good, but we do want to make it known that the site plan is also going to be really important as to whether this zone designation gets fully approved and fully vested. Because that's the part of the planning that you usually either see it in conjunction with the list or you've seen it once you've got the list as well.
So you're just saying to be like a two-step process? Or is that how it's going to be? Because
So if we wanted to be practical, I would say let's get your feedback on the list on the record. And if you want to say, look, now that we've talked about the list, we just want to make it clear that we still think the site plan is relevant to the overall approval of this. This is one that's got to go to city council anyway. And so mostly your feedback about the list and those use items, I think, is where we can add a lot of value while also recognizing that the process isn't the one that you've traditionally had.
So this is Commissioner Anderson. I don't, just for the record, I don't have any problem with any particular items on the list. That's not my issue. It's the process. This is not how this process is set up. It's trying to circumvent the way we do it. I mean, the city, the residents of the city, they have an expectation of what each of the straight zones are allowed to do. They know what an AP zone can have, what a C1 can have, what a C2 can have. And that way, if it's general plan to be one of those and somebody asks for that, it's already there. Like, that's what can be there. The whole point of a PUD is it's kind of a give and take with the residents, where if they ask for a PD, they can have a lot more flexibility. They can bring a lot more things in. They can change up, setbacks and this and that. It gives the developer a lot more flexibility, but the trade-off is that they provide the site, the design, the use, all this stuff, so then the public can see what's going to be there. That's the whole point of the PUD. So I have no problem with anything on the list. I have a problem with the process. This is circumventing on the whole point of the PUD. So, and if we think that a new list, a new zone needs to be made, then that's something the city council needs to be considered. But we shouldn't gut the entire PUD process just because it's more expedient for someone to, sell a property. And I get that. I totally understand why they want to know what's there. But again, if you want certainty of what's allowed, pick an AP or pick a C1 or pick a C2. It's already allowed to do that,
Is it worth, moving forward and have them, I'm curious to find out why they're coming at us this direction versus the normal procedure. They may have reason.
They want it.
Might be
Yeah,
just-
they want us. They don't know who their buyers are going to be, and they want to see what people are interested in. I get that. Like I said, I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
It's not how it's done. How it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But when our early meetings with developers that are considering going to PUD, right out the gate, staff recommends the full submittal, site plan, landscaping, building elevations, use list, just as Commissioner Anderson noted there. However, we do have a clause in the way that things can be done, and this is an option for them to break this out and submit this package. I get the frustration in there when it is broken out and seems a little clunky in that regard, but it is an option for them to take and pursue this avenue.
all right, this is a public hearing. If anyone here would like to come and speak to this, please come to the mic and state your name for the record. And I'm sorry, please walk up to the mic. so we can get it on record.
Yeah, I'm David Hilliard. I live on Roadrunner Drive. And I had a question too about the entrances to the facility, whatever it turns out to be. Is there going to be an entrance on Camino Real?
Yes, it showed 2 on Camino Real.
That creates a big traffic problem. There's already so much traffic on Camino Real. We really don't need any more. There's plenty of traffic as there is now. And it's really not policed well. At the corner there of George Washington Boulevard and Camino Real, hopefully they're going to put in a stoplight, because those people coming off Highway 7 are just barreling down the road, and it becomes a real problem. So one of the things that I'm really concerned about is that. I'm concerned about some of the things on the list that they want to put in here too, but that will come later after we see more.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Sherry Tate. Just a couple of things. Obviously, this is adjacent to our property. The access in and out is a concern. It's something I feel like could probably be worked out fine, but looking where the access off of Washington Fields Road, we have an access right close to that, and knowing how things have worked in the past, I haven't seen 2 accesses side by side, so if that is going to be a shared access or what, we need to get into our property also. And the piece that is right adjacent to that piece, I bet we're maybe 50 feet apart. So that's something that I'm concerned.
Sherry, are you referencing that farthest north access on the exhibit there?
Uh-huh.
Right by
Yeah.
the property line?
And then if you look in the overlay picture of the property, you can see where ours is kind of worn down already. You can see where we go in. We do use that for parking. Yeah, right. That kind of dull part right there. Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank
maybe
you.
it's
I
more
just
than-
wanted to make sure I clarified which access you're
Yeah,
referencing.
so that, that's a concern. And we've had several conversations with the developers and feel like we have a good relationship there. So, it's just something that I want to make sure that is understood, is we don't want to be landlocked, that we can't get in and out of there. We use that piece. And then the other thing that I've really been thinking a lot about that I think needs to be taken into consideration with a development like this, and we have had conversations, but when Washington Fields started developing any commercial, we were very, very, I say we, because I was on kind of a committee or group that intentional on what is Washington Fields going to look like? What is the plan? They came in gangbusters. We're going to know exactly. And so the first 2 commercial places that came in, we had, the people that designed it, and when Whammers came in, we were like, no, it is looking like this. They presented many plans, and same with right below us, I can't think of the name, Hoops Project. And so, not that I wholeheartedly agree with like the city gets to say you have to do this, but we have to recognize that that is a freeway exit. That is probably going to be one of the bigger commercial, developments. And what do we want that to look like when people approach, which will be what I consider the downtown Washington Fields? So, we haven't unfortunately really pinpointed what is Washington Fields going to look like, but, I'm a true heart of Washington City, and, we look at Telegraph and it's a lot of stuff. And so Washington Fields, the 4 corners, which will be commercial eventually, I just feel like we need to be very intentional on what that looks like. And I know we've discussed with this group, design standards or colors or, something that complements the Washington Fields. I know the trail system's gonna come through in places, so that there's an idea, so we don't start out of the gate. We started really well with those other two commercials, getting what I would say hodgepodgey, like, sorry about the quick quack on record, but, that would probably kill my heart to see that on that property in orange and green, but that's just me. So I'm just saying, like, if we were so really strict with the designs of these other two commercials, and I know it's changed since then, but I think we need to be really intentional and purposeful on what we want it to look like. And all the uses that are there, I think, I agree, Commissioner, I can't see a trailer play, but let's really consider, like, what is it gonna look like, and what is our purpose, and make sure Staley Farm has an access in and out that, we can still do what we do on our property too. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Britt Nichols. I live on Roadrunner as well. It is my opinion that the list as proposed is going to be problematic. One of those reasons is it comes across as, let's throw whatever comes against the wall and let's see what sticks. I believe you're going to find many residents of the area concerned about what's going to happen versus a proposal of this is what we want to do. It seems like they're shopping for whatever they can put into this land. And I understand their desire to do so because it gives them greater latitude and greater flexibility. However, I believe in the long run, the residents of the area, myself included and others who I've talked to, would find that to be very uncomfortable because we don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, something's there and it's not exactly what we anticipated. So I would suggest that following the tried and true method of this way is better, in that this is what we propose, what we're going to do. This is what we're going to put there, and this is what we're going to find to go in there, versus let's find somebody and we're just going to shove them in there because we have the land. That's the way it comes across. And so I would suggest that's something that we need to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, my name's Matt Nielsen with Evergreen Development. We're the owners of this land.
I'll let you come up and talk.
Sorry, after the public?
Yeah, after
Okay.
the public comments.
sorry.
We'll let you come. I just want to let everyone else have a chance to speak first.
Hi, Charlotte Smith, and I live on Rockwood Court. And I also have great concerns about the access points on Camino Real. We had a child hit by a car from our neighborhood last year at the end of school, and we have children who cross George Washington Boulevard. Since they opened 7, it is a nightmare during the intermediate school, during the elementary school, because they're all heading down to Majestic. And so we already have an issue, and if we have delivery trucks and we have all of that extra load of traffic for whatever is going to be built there, I just think we definitely need to make sure that the children are protected, and the access points on Camino Real is not going to protect any child at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm Catherine Staley. We lease our property to Sherry to run the family farm. My question, and I'm not up on all these numbers that you're using, she is, but I'm not. It's my understanding that I was surprised that there was any alcohol at all on there. But I wondered, because I don't know, how far away from a school do you have to be to sell alcohol? Or to
I
have,
have no clue. That's,
do you know that? I'm just concerned that there was any alcohol on there, and it said, you know, that you'd have to come in, but I always thought if you were close to a school, you couldn't sell alcohol. And
You are
then our
correct.
family business is geared to children, so.
Yeah, you are correct that there is in the law, laws that say if you are located within a certain distance from a school, a park, that you cannot get a license to sell alcohol. And so both the city code and the state law say that. And to sell alcohol at this location, they're going to need both a city license and a state license for alcohol sales. And so you are right. That decision is made when and if they submit for an alcohol license from the city and from the state. And so we haven't measured and checked those distances as of this moment. But you are right, that restriction does exist.
Well, I'm sitting back there thinking, will that keep a grocery store from coming in if they can't sell the
Well,
beer or something?
So one of the things that we often overlook when we're talking about bar licenses is that grocery stores and pharmacies and gas stations sell alcohol all over our city, just not the same type of alcohol in the eyes of the state of Utah's alcohol bureau, right? And so those are different types of licenses. And
So they would be able to get a grocery store in there.
grocery store
Probably.
or a convenience store get a different type of alcohol sales license and have a different standard than something that sells like alcohol, a bar that would sell consumption of alcohol on site.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of rules there. The state's made all the rules for us. The state government operates a monopoly within the state of Utah for alcohol distribution and sales and licensing. Washington City's code represents the same standards that the state has issued, but we have tightened those standards with some of our own standards, such as the number of bars allowed per population number. That we're not as generous for bar licenses as the state sets as their minimum rule.
Thank you.
is there anyone else? Okay, I will close the public hearing portion of this. And if the developer would like to come and speak now.
Hey, sorry to jump the gun.
Not a problem.
Like I said, my name's Matt Nielsen with Evergreen Development. We bought this land about a year ago or so. I run our Utah office, born and raised in Utah. I live up in Kaysville, up north. We're really excited for this project. It's going to be a grocery anchored development. That's what we bought it for. That's our plans for the property. And that's our intent. We're currently working with a grocer to put him on this property. And so when going through this process and discussing with staff on kind of what the best way forward was, we originally considered the idea of just a straight zone, one that would allow us to meet the needs of our development. And it was from staff's recommendation that we go this PUD route. And the reason why we did this route is so that we could get some assurances that we could do the uses that we needed at this property while also giving Planning Commission, council, and staff more teeth, I guess you could say, or approval rights over how that looks with the site plan and approvals and elevations and all that kind of stuff. And so this was the way to meet in the middle, to be able to meet our demands and also to make sure the city and residents had their input on exactly how site plans looked, elevations, and everything else. I agree, there's a lot on this list that doesn't need to be on this list that we have no intent of doing. You know, RV sales is a great example of that. Storage units is a great example of that. We're concerned about the typical uses that would come with any grocery development that you would see with restaurants and coffee shops and our grocery store, obviously. And so that's what we're mostly concerned about. The list is extensive, but our interest is mostly in the uses that deal with our direct development. And so We could have submitted a direct zoning requirement, you know, a C2 or C1. I'm not exactly sure what's the best one, but when discussing with staff, we feel like this was the best way forward to allow for the permitted use for what we need to do. And for us, a big part of getting that permitted use is to that point of marketing, but not necessarily just to fish, but from a timing standpoint of how long it takes for our grocer and each individual use to come back in and go through that process. And so a PUD is a great tool, and it also is a very, very slow tool for getting our uses like our grocery store in and approved. And so this was a way to try to speed that up to a certain degree that we could, while also meeting our deadlines and getting the city what they actually wanted for these uses. And so our intent is to do a great neighborhood grocery anchor development that makes everybody happy. We don't want to come in and do RV sales, motor sales. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to accomplish grocery. So happy to ask or answer any questions you have. And yeah, let me know.
It's hard because you got 3 parcels here, and are you putting 3 different things on here? Are you putting 10 different things on here?
Yeah.
Are you gonna sell each parcel separately? I mean, that's why we're kind of wanting to know what's going on here.
Yeah, and we will come back. Those are the 3 parcels that we bought, so we haven't come back in yet to replat the property, but we will come back in to replat the property. We'll sell the grocery store their portion of the property, so that'll be a separate plat, and then there will be individual plats for several of our users out there, so that plat will change from what you see today.
Any other questions?
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I understand what you're doing. It's just, and I don't know if what we had said makes sense, but like you explained kind of the point of the PUD. But what you're doing is not what you just explained. Like the point of the PUD is not what you're doing here. What this is you're asking for a new zone that gives carte blanche to a whole bunch of other things. I mean, if you're putting in a grocery store, I mean, if you already know which area that's going on, I mean, zone that one for a grocery store, and the other ones, leave them open until you have a better idea what you want to do, and then do a PUD for whatever whatever your vision is for there. I mean, you can do that. This is just not the way it's done. That's all.
Yeah, and again, the way we did it this way is based on recommendation of staff, which is why we did it this way. We did it this way with the intent that if we can at least get a use permitted, that it still comes back in each individual use for that PUD is our understanding for site design, elevations, and all that stuff. And so having to come back in and individually rezone for just a grocery store or just a restaurant or just a coffee shop can delay our timeline by years and years and years. And so that's a big concern for us because obviously we have an obligation to come and try to pull off a great development here that makes sense for us and to make sense for the city and to make sense for our tenants. And those timelines, dragging them out for as long as it would take to get each individual use permitted is a pretty major concern for us and for our grocery.
Have you ever seen a PUD package like submitted like the way they are?
We don't typically use PUDs
Right,
in a lot of our stuff.
I don't think you understand what we're saying. Like when people come in with a PUD, they come in with full blueprints, full landscape plans, lighting plans. These are usually, they don't know exactly who their tenants are, but they're like, hey, this is where the drive-in restaurant's gonna be, and this is where the grocery store is gonna be, and this is where, whatever, the office space, or, I mean, and this is how the parking's gonna be, and it's like a full packet. Like that's how it is. And if you don't wanna do that, then you just pick a zone and zone it. It sounds like you're more familiar with straight zoning, which, I mean, that works just fine, probably for what you're saying you want to do anyways. So, again, I'm not against, what you're doing or any of this, it's just, you're just approaching it wrong. And so, just for the sake of process, I mean, I'm gonna say no.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. Eldon, I'm just curious why the city staff recommended this method.
Great question. We're a very hands-on city. One of the attendees there spoke on that. They want to be involved and know what's coming in our early discussions with developers. Felt like if Matt said he wanted to go straight zone and that staff recommended we don't because the city wants to be involved in the uses, if we're to give a straight C2 zone, which they could ask for, it's general plan CCOM, which he has the right to submit to a C1 or a C2 zone change. We want to be involved with the uses. There may be some uses in the straight zone, recreational vehicle sales that we feel don't apply to this area. And this is a way for us to navigate and pick out or put in uses that we want there, more flexibility.
Is Eldon, this is a list of everything under the sun.
Well, that's why we're here. We need to have that discussion and go line by line and recommend to scratch or add in uses is what we're here for tonight. If you don't like one of those proposed uses, make it known. Let's recommend to pull that use out.
I didn't like the whole process. I think the process, this is not how, this is just, like Thad said, we're putting the cart way before the horse. We haven't even.
So my thought is this, and he makes the comment, I'm curious to see this is the feeling I have from a lot of people is that they don't want to come to Washington City because of the difficulties of trying to develop. I don't know if that's a true fact. So in my mind, it's okay, is there a way to work as a city to bring some of the commercial that we want, if that changes the way, I get it that it's not the common way, but if there is a way to do it, and Corey, I had the same thought as you, if there is a partial that this grocery store is going to go into, why not section that out and then just make it that zone? And then take the time to finish it out like you typically would with the other parcels. And is that kind of what you're?
If they want, here's an example, okay? When Lammers came through, okay? They first did it, they submitted it just like that. Exact same discussion. And we said no, because all they had is they had a big thing and they had a big list. Hey, we want any of these possible uses here. And the only one they would tell us is that we might have a gas station, but we definitely want a car wash. And that was it. But we don't know where, we don't know how. And that was it. And we're like, well, that's not a PUD. And we said either do a straight zone, do what's allowed here, or do a PUD and bring it to us so the public can look at it, we can see what it is. And so they decided to stay with the PUD. They came back with full plans, with full this and that. We went back and forth. There were issues with the design and so forth. They fixed it. They made it look better. And eventually it was a good project. They came doing this exact same thing. And we shot them down for the exact same reason. And had we done this, Whammers would not look like it looks like right now. Not at all. It would have been just a gigantic hodgepodge. And we've had this discussion with 6 or 7 projects that are trying to do the same exact thing. And the thing is, you ask, is there a process to work? But yes, the process is you've got straight zoning, which the city, the residents have a vested understanding what those zones have, or you have a flexible zone. The flexible zone has certain requirements, and those requirements are to provide the design and use and to show us what they're going to do. That is the thing. And no, Washington City is not any more difficult than anywhere else, trust me, not by a mile.
I was actually going to ask that question. I know you're a contractor, you deal with
I deal
different
with every
cities.
city in the county, and by a long way, Washington City is a lot easier to work with than many.
Okay. So we're not making it difficult for
No,
to
it's
come
just-
in and
It's just-
commercial
They're
to.
just not aware of how this process works, that's all. And it's not necessarily his fault, I'm just saying, this isn't how it's done. If he wants a PUD, that's what it takes, put together your vision of what you want the thing to look like, how you want the parking to be, how you want buildings to be and what general things you want. And we talk about it, and the public sees it, and that's how it works. Or if you don't, then you just pick a straight zone and go for it.
So from my understanding, on a project like this where, there's a grocer, there's multiple pads, there's multiple users, at this point when we don't know exactly how those users look or what they look like, right? If it's going to be a coffee shop or a sit-down restaurant or what it's going to be, I think that's what we were trying to streamline, where, we at least know the uses that we're going to get approved, but then not knowing exactly what those uses are going to look like. So we can get zoning in place, but not knowing exactly which users are going to be in there. So just from my understanding for this PUD process, our understanding is we get the use permitted, and then we come back in, and then you guys have the ability to look through the site design and elevations and make it look the way the city wants, but at least we know the use can be there. But the burden that you have the ability to say, it can't look like this, it needs to look like this, this, or this. So in the process, you're saying, if we don't know the users yet, are you saying that it can't be zoned PUD because you don't have every user lined out already?
PUD has to be a kind of a presentation. Like instead of saying, oh, this is kind of what we want to do, it's an actual presentation. Now, it's better if you have the design and use together, because that way you can actually kind of see what you're looking at. In some cases, we have approved, use before, but it's still been quite specific, like, hey, in this rough area, we want a grocery store here, and then we want, some drive-in, things here, and we want some retail here, and whatever. Like, I mean, you can
And then
still put that together. I mean, people do it all day long.
And then the design of the buildings and all that would come after who the tenants are,
So,
right?
Fine. I mean, you still have, even when you do design, you can't do the design piecemeal, like each thing. I mean, everybody has their own signage and their logos and so forth, but the whole place has to have kind of a cohesive look as well. So that's why I said sometimes it's easier to kind of have a vision of the whole thing. I mean, there have been lots of projects that have come here to do PUD, and they've huge presentation, and this is our idea, and these are the type of businesses, and this is kind of what it would look like, and so forth. And I mean, the one on this exact piece of property, like they put together a really, really good PUD plan. It had exactly where they wanted stuff, what they wanted to look like, and everything. I mean, the reason that one got shut down was not because of the PUD process.
Of the uses.
uses, yeah.
But I will say this, in their defense, they had the uses limited down to like 2 or 3, maybe 4 uses, right? I mean, at least they knew what they wanted. Now, council and planning commission didn't agree with the uses, but at least it was like, hey, this is kind of what we're going to do. In this case, you're saying, well, we don't know what we're going to do, but approve this whole list, so maybe we can find something. That's not what
So-
PUD is.
Commissioner Anderson, I'm just curious to ask this question. So I get it that they've got the grocery store that's locked and ready to go, but that's the only use that they've got confirmed. So if this was your piece of property and you had that same scenario, what direction would you approach to try to get the grocery store in and then to have the rest come around it?
Okay, so if I had completely no clue who was ever going to buy the property, like whatsoever, and I didn't have any vision, I would straight zone it for something that was as closely in line with what I think I could sell it for and go with that. And if I did have a vision, like, hey, I really want this to look like this village of these little shops and this grocery store and this and that, then I'd put it together. And you can still pick, I mean, I'm sure you probably know at least, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 uses that are, hey, this is really what we're going to shoot for. I mean, I guarantee you, your list of potential customers is not that whole list, right? I mean, you've got like kind of at least a vision, a narrowed idea of, hey, this is kind of what I want to look like. I mean, that's just, it's not as hard as it sounds. Every practice that we get submits it like that.
Make the comment, if we do go straight zoning here, there's no give or take on the uses. It's all or none.
No, and I know that. I'm just saying, you could do a PUD, and it just takes a little bit of homework of saying, hey, let's narrow this down to a few things and get kind of a general layout. And, hey, these are kind of where a grocery store wants to be, and these are kind of the stores we're looking to sell it. It doesn't have to be super, super specific, but it's got to be a lot more specific than a gigantic list.
I understand kind of where the developer's coming from. They want to get it done, get it moving, and it makes sense. But, I mean, we give this, and then you're just coming back, yeah, you'll be able to say we go through with this and, you know, we don't want the storage units, we don't want the RV cells or the automotive cells, you know, we don't want this there in these uses. Okay, but now you still have to come back and show us the layouts of everything. So I mean, this is kind of like the first step. You know, we'll give this PUD a go with these certain as of right now, but if it comes back and we don't, you know, and you ask for something in this PUD that we already agreed to, that we don't know for sure if we, you know, I understand you're putting the cart before the horse, but you don't want to buy the wrong horse for the wrong cart as well. You know what I'm saying? So I understand where you're coming from on this, and it makes sense to me, and I understand what Commissioner Anderson is saying as well, because we don't know. I feel like this is going to be, in order to make everybody feel comfortable about it, this is going to be a two-step process for a CU, conditional, a PUD, sorry.
Yeah, and maybe to just add to what you're saying, a real oversimplification would be remove from this list anything that's probably a no regardless of site plan, right? Anything on there that's just absolutely not in this city or on this property, let's get it off. Everything else would be recommended or not recommended by you to the council. The council then would consider it, but it would be subject to the site plan. So a good example, I think it was you, Commissioner Mitchell, that said, you know, if the whole site was RV sales, I might look at it differently than if, you know, there was a corner of RV sales mixed in with other uses, for example, right? And so the list as approved by the council would essentially have that asterisk with it. And so, yeah, that's the process they're asking us to entertain. I sustain our planning to try and be flexible and have these conversations. I do think talk about uses, the better we are and the better the process is, but it is.
At that point, we're then defining what we feel like the field should look like, what should be there and what shouldn't.
Yeah, I feel like that if we do approve this, we still want to see everything before anything else happens. I feel like tonight's would just be asking for what uses can go in this PUD. So we're making a PUD based on uses. And then we'd have to come back again, which is not going to speed his process up,
Right,
but
that's
he's
the
going
only
to come
I
back.
think I'm worried about is that, like, even if we approved it, it's still just a generalization of.
Yeah, we still have to
you
come
still
in and
gotta
everything
really
over
show us
again.
the
You have
actual
to
use
put
and
all
stuff,
this
so-
Which,
whole product together
we fully
again.
understand that. I think, to your point, we were trying to figure out a way where we can confidently go to our grocery tenant and other tenants and say, hey, your use is approved here. Now you have to come back in and resubmit on this PUD for your elevations, for your site plan and everything else. But at
And
least
you're-
we can go confidently say to our grocer that you should come here versus going to another area, city, whatever it is.
And you're going to have to show us, you know, what you want on here, not just, all right, here's our grocer, and now we'll figure this out later.
Show all
I mean,
of it
you got to show, we're
with the
going to have,
design, like
you don't
what's the
necessarily
general
show
look.
us what the building is, if I'm correct. I mean,
At least
it's
the general
been
look
a
of it.
minute, but staff, please help me if I'm wrong. But we'll want to know, all right, this is going to be a building. It might be a drive-through building. This might be a car wash. This might be a bank. This might be, you know, an office building, which is what we want, is what we're wanting to see. And right now we're like, we don't even know where it's going to go. We don't know what it's going to look like. So I feel like this is the step to just approve what uses can be made. Is that where I feel like what we're asking for here?
Let me
Is that, I mean,
do something. For the sake of expediency, here, like, this is, you asked what I would do, okay? I mean, in general, very generally, I mean, I can look at this right now, I mean, I'd probably say this stuff right here, right? Retail sale of goods, you know, art shop, bank, beauty shop, bookstore, clothing store. That's obviously, you know, type of thing. You know, retail sales,
Can we zoom in on that a little bit? Is that all right?
restaurants, drive-in, you know, areas, you know, full-service restaurants and drive-in restaurants. You know, gym, Pilates, yoga, whatever, or maybe a coffee shop, or, you know, bank, you know, administrative office building. I mean, those are like the things that we would normally see in a PUD, like, hey, this is kind of the stuff we want here, right? I mean, so I would start by crossing everything else out.
And should we go ahead and do that?
Well,
Do we take their list and cross off what we don't want there?
Well, I think that we give a recommendation, we do that, we go through and do this and say, this is what we want on here and this is what we don't. But I still feel like all we are giving, we're not
giving-
approving a PUD, we're approving a use for a PUD, which is a step towards it, not necessarily the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like we're getting nervous, is like we're approving a PUD and then we're done, we won't see it again. That's how I feel like we're getting nervous about this. And I understand you're wanting to know what uses you can put in here. And that, I believe, is something we should be able to, I mean, if that's what he's asking for, as long as it has to come back to us again so we get to see what we're dealing with.
Well, like I just said right there, I mean, those were kind of in general uses, but I just want to make sure. I want to make
Because
sure
it
the next
depends on
time you
where they
bring
go.
this forward, you don't bring it like it's a straight zone, like it's, I mean, we're expecting like a presentation, like a packet of what you really want to do, what your vision is, so.
And that would be done with each individual use.
Except they got to be cohesive, that's the problem.
Well, we want to know where the buildings are going to go before this all starts. And what the general look of
place
it.
is gonna be.
of the
Sure,
whole
but
PUD
what I was just trying to clarify is, obviously that can take years, right, to get a shopping center fully built out. And so some of those uses we may not know for 3 years or 4 years
Well,
exactly.
that's what we would approve, is what these uses
Sorry,
are.
excuse me, not uses. Who's exactly going to go there, right? If we're holding out for an individual coffee shop, we may not know if it's going to be a Starbucks or someone else, but at least we know that coffee shop is an approved use, and then the coffee shop is coming back in
Right, but
individually
when we
with their.
approve design uses, like when we do approve design uses, it's still kind of a general overall design. It's not, hey, you can throw any old coffee shop in here or any of this, I mean, it's.
No, we don't want-
There is a lot of leeway for branding and signage and this and that, but it still has a cohesive look. It's not a hodgepodge, throw everything in, that's the thing.
So yeah, then you got hospital, the hotel, the motel.
Like, I would say no to all that stuff.
See, and
I agree.
it just
That should be
depends on where it
urgent.
goes and what it looks like.
Exactly.
Motor vehicle, trailer, campers.
Read each line item. Do you want to go line by line here and you give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or how can I help facilitate this?
I mean,
It's gonna, like, there's so much there. I mean, how is city council, aside from watching this whole long,
Well, I,
how are they gonna know what in the world, like, we're even
I
talking
feel
about?
like-
I mean, are you,
I'm going to take very detailed notes here as we go line by line and make you're recommending to council. I will either then say planning commission was in agreeance with leaving administrative, executive, professional, medical, and research offices, or planning commission recommended to pull this line. Whatever your recommendation is.
if we go forward with this, because I'm still, I don't like this, it's just, it's messy. It's just a hodgepodge, messy way of doing it. It should be cleaned up. It should be a clear list that these are the things that the planning commission was okay with, because otherwise this whole list is going to get presented to city council, and then city council is going to have an hour-long debate about the exact same things we're having right now. It's just how it goes.
Or though, like, for me personally, I'd love to see the grocery store go in there and to risk the chance of, that store ending up at some development because of the complications that might be created. So I get both. Like, I feel like if there's a way that we can help him move forward with a couple of things that I think fit there, but then not give them, ideally, it comes back as all the others where it's completely planned out. But I get it where they've got a couple of uses that want to go there and not everything. But then it is, okay,
I think it needs to be tabled till next time and come back with a concise list of, hey, these are the things that we have an idea of. I mean, I already told you the things that in general we would be like fine with. Just come with a nice, clean list so we can say, yeah, we're okay with that. Send it to city council. This is just too messy. It's too much, and it's a mess.
Yeah, I would concur. I mean, it sounds to me like the applicant has a general idea of what you want, and this list of everything, again, but the kitchen sink has just muddied the water. And my suggestion would be that you guys get it, lock it down on what you're specifically looking for, and then we can have a fully informed discussion and make a fully informed recommendation to city council. I'm just still feel like I'm flying blind because, we can line item and stuff, but I think you know what you want. and us going through this and our own personal interpretations of what those definitions may be could also continue to derail the process.
I think we could just, table it till the next meeting. It wouldn't even have to be that long of discussions. We've already beat this dead horse forever. Just clean it up, make it really nice, clear vision. Hey, these are kind of the ideas that we're having.
Yeah, and a good example to your point is, our grocery tenant won't close on the land until we get zoning in place. They're okay with site design and elevations, and so they're okay with that whole
Sure.
process, but it's specifically that their use can be allowed in the zoning. And so that's kind of what stemmed this whole discussion is, how do we get someone like our grocery store, who's a national brand that does a lot of these things, to actually close on the land so we can get them moving forward and then do the rest of our development at that point. Because, if you have a grocery store, then the rest of the development is going to look a lot different than if you don't have a grocery store, which we all understand that, right? So I think, we're not trying to do this so that we can get away with it, whatever we want, and do something that the city isn't happy with. We're trying to do this in a way that allows us to move quickly to meet the needs of our grocer and other tenants, while also still giving the city power to approve or not approve site plan, elevations, things like that. And that was the solution that we came up with, working with staff. So that's,
Let's just clean it up, that's all.
okay.
So on matters where your role is recommending role, look at tables and ask, is there something that's deficient or missing, justify more time, or it might be a motion, and then you express to the council, because the
I
list.
think it needs to be tabled and just cleaned up, because I think we can move forward with this easily if it just cleaned up. I just don't want to send that document to city council with a whole bunch of
With us, with our or crossing off what's there, I guess I'm kind of seeing where that's going, like, is it going to come back with a smaller list and that's it?
yeah, that's what.
Make that smaller list right now and save them?
Yeah, I think it is messy, but
What's the process of the city, if it's denied, let's say, is there a waiting period for it to come back to council, or what's the?
no, it'll go straight to council.
Tonight, there's no approval or denial.
Okay,
There's a motion to either recommend approval,
right,
recommend denial, or to table.
okay,
And when items are tabled, there's a little bit of a due process concern from legal. Is it tabled to a date certain? So the applicant and the public have the right to come back and participate like they are tonight, right? And other things like that. And so one of the things you look at on a tabling is there a code or a standard or something that they've not met or have failed to adhere to, that, or failed to be aware of, that they could do and bring back to us, right? And so I think tonight that might be a category that I'm thinking of as we're talking perhaps a tabling. But yeah, tonight, this is the city council's role on this application is a recommending body to the city council. City council would then require a motion to approve, deny, or also table.
Make it clear, I guess we're asking them to condense their list. Table it, condense the list.
And they could come back in 2 weeks.
And articulate what their intentions may be, which he's done, but it's not in the document.
Just clean the document up.
Is that something
is
you
there-
want, or do you want to,
I was
yes
gonna
or
say,
no?
is there more to articulate in the document that you have in
I
mind?
think what you were saying, but that wasn't in the
These,
document.
these lists are just,
Everything that you don't want to put there.
Okay, so by articulating the document, you mean taking off uses that
You're
aren't?
looking for a grocery store anchor, et cetera, et
Grocery
cetera.
store anchor with these, possible adjacent businesses.
I feel like some of these aren't, if they build an office building on part of that building, some of these are going to want to go in there. You know what I mean? And I think there's not that many to get rid of, to be honest with you.
That's kind of what I was
Move
looking
it
at.
move it forward.
That's kind of what I was wondering. If it's just breaking down the list, I feel comfortable going through that list to break down the list and get rid of the uses that are clearly no's.
We can give our opinion on it. They're not going to ask for more than this. Obviously, we're not going to let more than this go through. That's then, or at least we're not going to recommend this. We don't get to make that decision. But the coffee shops, the automobile service stations, if it's a gas station or something like that, I'm fine with it. I mean,
Just go through the list and let's just say your name.
but, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you want to,
Support that.
I mean,
I think we're.
what do you want off, and rather than going through and saying yes or no?
So I think from a planning standpoint, you can give the city council great feedback on what you think should and shouldn't go there. I think that's a real nice value from this board. And so if you can provide that tonight, I think it's wonderful feedback.
I'm down for it.
Also, I think we need to consider the anchor retailer that's going in. They probably have an idea of what types of businesses they want around them to support their business to continue operating in that location.
Yeah, which I assume it's all the things that you would also want to see here, right? They don't want some of those they don't want storage units next to them, right? That's not something they would ever want to go next to. So I think the uses that you would want to approve are the uses that they would also want near them.
Yeah, I just don't know if a childcare would be conducive to a retailer or.
Yeah, there is, I mean, we're seeing this, we don't have a lot of these in Utah, but we're seeing more of them coming in that are in, Las Vegas and outside, like the Primrose, these kind of nicer, higher end that look really nice on the outside. So we are seeing some uses like that. We don't have anybody like that right now. We haven't talked to anybody like that, but we are seeing some really nice high end that's pushing into Utah as they're expanding.
And see, and that's the childcare, like if you built an office building and put a childcare center in there for someone to rent out a space, it's a permitted use in a PUD. And if not, they have to come back in and readjust the PUD for something like that, correct? I mean, you'd have to.
A lot of these retailers live and die by the anchor store, and if it doesn't support
Right.
that anchor store, like a childcare and a medical building, office building is not going to support.
Well, but they're asking for it, but I'm just saying, it's not gonna be, I don't see a problem with it going in there as a use, but we gotta see where it goes and all that stuff. I mean, you can cut off what you want, but
Yeah, so this Commissioner Mitchell, I mean, I see a couple, and I'm just going to say that I feel like don't fit with the grocery store.
If we're wanting to go through the use list, let's break it down line by line and start from the top, go through the bottom if that's the direction that
okay.
commissioners want to go.
I agree. If you're going to do it, go through the list, so we're not
Nice and
ping-ponging.
votes and starting from the top, administrative, executive, professional, medical, and research offices.
I'm going to assume,
I'm fine with that.
unless you speak up and say, let's remove it, I'll assume that you're okay with
You're
it.
okay with that? Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm good with that one.
Banking and other financial institutions.
Fine with
good.
that.
Automobile car wash, not to exceed 4 bays. Automobile service stations excluding major repair work such as engine or transmission rebuilding, body and collision repair, frame, and heavy-duty truck servicing.
That one,
Would the grocery store potentially have pumps?
Yeah, a fuel station, correct.
They would.
Yeah.
so like a fuel station or
Yeah, it excludes.
changing tires, stuff like that. Yeah, is that what we're talking about?
Excludes
Okay.
everything else except for the automobile service station.
Just fuel, yeah. The grocery store doesn't operate, major repair work, just fuel station.
Sell tires, put those on, stuff like that.
No.
Okay, I'm good with it.
Child daycare or preschool center which meets all state and local regulations.
Would probably be a no on that.
Consensus of no is
I'm okay with that one. I mean, it's better to go in a place like that, so in my opinion, than the residential neighborhoods.
I'm fine with it.
I'm okay with it.
coffee shops.
I'm fine.
Like Starbucks.
Yeah, that would include all all coffee shops, I take it. Commercial, recreation, and entertainment facilities not to include sexually oriented businesses.
Kind of struggle with that. I don't, yeah, I mean, you don't want them to drop a Jellystone in there. It doesn't sound like you're going to do that, but you don't know. You don't know what you're getting.
What would be an example that fits into that category? In the Jellystone?
Things like mystery rooms, axe throwing. There's kind of recreational entertainment type facilities, you know, an arcade. Those are the type of uses that would fit within that category. And obviously the exception doesn't go into the adult type businesses. It would just be for
Movie theater.
theater could probably be in there. Theaters sometimes have size issues that need additional, you know, review.
Feel okay with that use there? Okay. Moving on, personal instruction services, including gym, dance, Pilates, yoga, and professional schools.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Private business and technical schools. Next line item, reception center and/or wedding chapel. Okay, there, moving on to restaurants, including full service and quick serve dining. Restaurants including a drive-through facility as an accessory use. Restaurants including a drive-through facility as the primary use, accompanied by a patio. Feeling okay there? Bar establishment, which requires the overlay zone approval.
I'd say no.
If they get the overlay,
Well, and yeah, it could be a B-dubs or something like that, right?
no, that's a restaurant. It's not a bar.
Oh,
So staff is looking at this in light of state code definitions. So a B-dubs would be what the state calls a restaurant with bar, which essentially means the state requires that a portion of their proceeds be, a certain percentage of their proceeds must never get lower than a percentage of food sales. So there's a 50-50, but essentially about as much food is sold as alcohol from a revenue standpoint. Bars have no such requirement. And so bars can sell, 100% of alcohol. And so the bar establishments end up being a little different than your B-dubs. They're usually, a location where people come to drink on site, whereas restaurants are come to eat and drink on site. That's my brief summary of the state definitions of bar and restaurant with bar.
Got one that liked it, one that did not like it overall.
I don't have a problem with it. It's going to have to pass muster.
Yeah, it's got to go through the state, so I don't see that one happening, but if it does, I don't see a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it. Just have to get that additional approvals.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot harder process than, they couldn't get one up by exit 13 where there's a lot less people. The
Everyone's going
chances
to
of it
St.
going in
George's
down there is
bars
gonna be a lot
anyways.
worse,
Right.
because we're not given an approval for that, because it still has to have the overlay zone, so that's got a lot of strings attached to it.
We'll leave that one in there. Retail operation of cleaning, laundry, cosmetic, and repair services.
Is that like a dry cleaner?
Correct.
Or a coin-operated laundromat, stuff like that?
Correct.
That one I don't really want to see.
Job.
But the barber shops, the beauty salons, stuff like that, I'm okay with, but I don't know, that's how I feel on it.
Why are they all in the same category? Seem like to be different.
That's copied and just straight from our city code. It's included in that, they're all in that same item.
Of environmental issues while others.
So it'd be a good time to break that list out if you want us to.
Yeah, I would.
Laundry element, the
Separate it, yeah.
Well, what's the repair
not the
service?
right fit.
What's a repair service?
Yeah, Serve Pro, watch repair, boot repair. It's just something that's fixing things.
Maybe say no to that one. I don't know.
I'm okay with with a barber shop or cosmetology, something along those lines, but with the,
So the cleaning and the repairing, just general repairing, not so much, the cosmetic and beauty.
yeah,
something you're okay with.
something I feel like it should be in there.
What about the laundry? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
No, I've put that in, no.
No?
That's how I feel. I wouldn't want to see a laundromat over there
Yeah, I agree.
along those lines.
Okay. Retail sale and/or rental of goods, merchandise, and equipment conducted wholly within an enclosed building.
I have no problems with that.
Hospital and veterinarian clinic, including overnight care of large animals.
Well, it's right by the farm. I feel like that if it's in the right spot, it's okay.
Yeah.
And there's no boarding. I mean, I don't have a problem with the vet being there.
Okay.
It's just, it'll all come back to where it has to land on the layout of everything.
Hospital. Hotel or motel. Mobile.
I don't know about that one. I mean, you're talking about, you're gonna carve it out, for another Hampton or something like that? Not your niche, it's 19 acres.
I mean, they have those that are gonna be down the road a half a mile closer to the airport. They're gonna have hotels there. So I was kind of back and forth on that one. Commissioner Davis, I'm not sure there.
I'd leave it
And
out,
besides, this is why we need
an idea.
an idea, because where are we gonna have the parking? Are we gonna have enough parking in this 19 acres? I don't think you will for a hotel. So, I mean, those are the issues that, why we want to see what
Yep.
Commissioner Anderson was saying, this, like, no hotel, because we don't know where the parking is gonna go.
And frankly, we're okay with that recommendation, not denying the recommendation, whatever the official term would be, because we don't have intent to do hotel or motel.
And the hospital, I think that's kind of a weird one. But, I mean, like a clinic, a doctor's clinic, yeah, maybe. But there's not enough room there for a hospital either. With a grocer.
Hospital, but
Could you break out, say no to hospital,
Instacare.
but do, a smaller, up to 5,000 feet or whatever?
Yeah, something like that, that's fine. I mean, it's,
Maybe just an equestrian riders clinic. People down there ride horses sometimes.
somewhere to put thumbs back on. There's Roper
barely
Arena across the
removed
street.
anything from the list.
I'll write the word clinic next to that, just.
Yeah, I think
just
that
a
would
smaller
just-
scale.
Yeah, urgent care type,
Yeah.
smaller
my-
clinic.
I mean, this is why, we would go through this, because what is gonna go there? And are you gonna have enough parking, or is all that stuff?
Okay. Hotel or motel, I wrote, recommend to pull that line item there. Mobile food vendor.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'd say no on that one. I think if we're gonna have restaurants in that, I don't see the need to have, the mobile food vendor option.
What if it's, I mean, if it's in front of the, I don't, yeah,
It all depends on where it sits, like you've been saying.
it really does. I mean, it just
Commerce
kind of,
has one.
yeah, I mean, they
Wasn't
just,
part of the
they'll move. I mean,
They kind of go everywhere.
yeah, they're mobile.
Yeah.
You can pull across the street.
And mobile food vendors also, they benefit from a state law that essentially restricts municipalities' ability to regulate them. Even their licensing starts at the state level. So there's only so many teeth we have on that use because the state's embraced it.
So they can kind of go in there if they want.
Yeah, and for example, one of the issues is they don't have to get a business license in Santa Clara, Ivan, St. George, and Washington. They can get one within the region, and the state says the other cities have to accept that, the health and food prep certifications are good anyway. And so, yeah, by the nature of what they are and how they operate, the traditional model of cities issuing business licenses felt almost egregious against that use. And so the state passed laws that tell us how we're supposed to help with that.
motor vehicle, trailer, camper, and recreational vehicle sales agency.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I got that consensus of no there. Retail and/or wholesale and rental of goods, merchandise, and equipment, which may include storage and display outside of an enclosed building. Examples include art shop, bank, beauty shop, bookstore, clothing store, drugstore, florist, laundry, theater, and variety store.
Take laundry off that list because they took it off the upper list.
I was gonna say that one kind of covered most of them.
That's
Like
probably,
Corey
like,
said.
that doesn't even need to be listed because it's duplicated.
Okay, note taken.
Well, is there retail up there though?
It's just the wholesale thing and the rental of goods and merchandise and equipment. I want, that kind of makes it different. But then the examples are not the same.
Which one does dry cleaning fall into versus doing your laundry?
I think laundromat includes both the chemical cleaning of dry cleaning as well as the wet cleaning with, you know, your traditional washer dryer. And so I think the city would interpret those to be the same use.
Looks to me, this Commissioner, it looks to me like what this one is distinguishing is that it's allowing storage and display outside an enclosed building. I think that's the new one here. And everything else is just examples, but I think that's what it's getting at, is like, not only can you allow customers in your store, but actually you can pull some of your goods out in front, like an art shop will do.
Say no.
I'm fine with that. I see what you're saying. Like, if you're walking down the shops at Zion Promenade, how they pull their stuff out, if that's what it is, then yeah, I'm okay with that. That makes sense.
My only concern with that one is, if you're walking into a grocery store, they often pull things out.
Right,
Pumpkins or
Yeah, no, I
whatever.
understand that. Yeah, I'm good with that one.
I'm okay with it.
Moving on to the next one, state-approved and operated liquor store.
Do we have a choice on that?
We'll comment on this one. If we asked a state official, they would say that the legislature's code says that we don't get to tell them where and when they locate their facilities. The state has tried to work with this city and other cities to come to their bodies and solicit input so that that doesn't feel quite like it's written. And so they've got a practice of coming to us and asking if we want one, and if we do, where and how, and what do we need to do for look and feel. But I would agree that the state law, the way it's written, says that cities don't get to regulate that.
I mean, they'd still have to buy the property from the, so that's basically up to you. We can't say you can't sell it to them.
If the CUP says no liquor store, I think that there's a private zoning problem for the state. But the state and the federal government have sent us letters in the past that say your zoning laws don't preempt state laws or federal laws. And so there's a question of legal preemption there. And I guess it would be resolved what's going on and how hot the fire's burning about that issue.
Yeah, but so we can't really take it out. But, and he decides to sell, then there's nothing we can do.
The legal department will get involved and do our best.
I say leave it because we don't have a choice.
Okay, note taken. Lastly, storage units.
No.
No.
Okay, note taken. That's the list there.
So basically, whatever we do, we still have to come back in and see site plans, where you want to put things. You'll have your anchor, but then, okay, you're okay to have your anchor. Now we want to see what your plans are for the rest of the property, not just this.
Okay.
And then we'll decide it later. We want to see, that's how I would take it for this PUD. Yeah, well, this is what we were okay with. We'll see what city council says, but we got to be able to see how everything else is going to work. because I would say we need to check the entrances as well once we know where these are going. I mean, those are good spots, but they might not be. You know, if your grocer wants to go in that back corner, that spot's worthless. So, I mean,
Yeah, and that's why the entrances and exits were put where they were, because they were approved by the grocer to go there. So we tried to meet, or we did meet all distance requirements for full movement, right in, right out. And so then we ran it by the grocer to get their approval to then put them in those spots that are conducive to looping around the center and getting to the grocery and getting people in and out.
okay, yeah, and that's kind of what we want to see. That's the whole point of the PUD.
With that, you are going to have to check with Staley Farms north of you as well. Just because it's a dirt road access, it's still an access. So you can't just go by what the grocer needs. Like, you've got to work with the rest of them.
With the driveway issues there might be some wisdom in developing a shared driveway access for both sides, and you put it on the boundary line and accomplish both of those, get it down to one access. I don't know if that's been discussed, maybe it has.
So with that, thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Is there a motion?
That's what I'm wondering. Is someone wanting to make a motion based on what we approved and what we didn't, and note that it'll have to still come back and go from there?
I mean, do they generally, like, you're gonna need to do like a traffic study and all of that, just like normal when it comes back? And the land will be developed, so there'll be sidewalks and things like that, curb and gutter.
Correct. So if we're gonna try and compare the straight zone to PUD, straight zone gives you a class, and then the uses within it, you essentially bring what you want, and you get to build them at what locations and what colors and shapes and sizes you want. But you still gotta meet all the codes and standards, you know. Sidewalks have to be the right width and the right materials and the right construction, curbs, gutters, drains, all of that. PUD essentially is the council or the city giving approvals in exchange for the ability to review orientation of buildings and entryways, colors and shapes and sizes. And so things that in straight zoning are entirely up to the owner, PUD essentially gives you the opportunity to see and look and feel and touch those. But yeah, all of the typical technical standards are still the same.
Is there a plan for like a light to go in anywhere?
Right?
Light, yeah.
Traffic lights get planned based on what our traffic engineers call warrants. Warrants are essentially measurements and traffic counts that say, yeah, there's enough left-hand turn movements here today that there needs to be a light to allow left-hand turn movements with a control signal, right? And so those get planned based on the traffic load, essentially. Do we think that more traffic lights are probably in the future down around that area? Yes, because of the interchange on the Southern Parkway, the other kind of throughways. You know, the George Washington Boulevard is going to someday be an extended, very significant east-west corridor. And so, yeah, we think there'll be more lights. Do we know exactly where, or are we saying that it must be here or there? Not yet.
Thank you.
Somebody want to make a motion?
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I'll make a motion. And this is just a recommendation, correct? Recommend approval of Z-25-24, the request to rezone them, the 19.3 acres. Item 4B with the conditions, defines the conditions, but we also recommended the condition that they coordinate with the neighboring landowners on creating proper inlets and ingress or access. And then referring to our modified exhibit with a list of what can and can't go in.
I'll second his motion with a question here, just point of order to make sure we're clear. We have this PUD, again, they're gonna be coming back. Now we're just kind of skipping this.
We added a
created
step. We've added a step.
We are adding that step. That's what that I didn't hear that they still, for this PUD approval, they still need to come back, and we're still looking at everything, just like you would with a PUD.
Yep.
So correct, if approved, if your recommendation goes to the council and there's an approval vote of some final product, we're gonna have to bring back site plan. It's to show you the paints and the colors and the shapes and the sizes, all of those things, in addition to meeting city standards on all of the technical.
Yeah, this is just the zone change.
This, if approved, applies the PUD zoning, so puts it into that category of hyper planning, more planning than straight zoning. And it might be the current owner, or it may be somebody that purchases land on the basis of that decision that ends up at the podium to show you the look and feel. But yeah, they're gonna have to come back and get approval for those things before they get to build them.
So we're approving the use, the general uses, but that's where it ends.
Correct.
Second.
Can you just reiterate what was removed from the list as part of your motion?
You betcha, great question. I did. Let me skim through my notes here. I can zoom in here. First item was retail operations, and then we want to scratch, or recommend to scratch cleaning and laundry and repair services, which is right here, this item. The second item was hospital clinic. We wanted to add the word clinic or smaller scale type hospital uses there. And then recommend to scratch motor vehicle, trailer, camper, and recreational vehicle sales agencies.
What about hotel motel? Were you scratching that?
Have a note to scratch hotel or motel as well. And also in the retail here, to scratch laundry out so that it matches the above. Storage units was recommend to remove that one as well. Those are my notes.
Okay, so we have a first by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Commissioner Davis, individual voting. Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Nay.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou?
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock? I'm an aye as well. And this will go to City Council with our recommendations for approval. Item 4C is a consideration and recommendation to City Council amending the Washington City Code Title 9-8A, Detached Accessory Dwelling Units. I guess we'll turn the time over to someone. Eldon?
So these next two items are to amend the detached accessory dwelling unit. And the reason they're broken into two items is one's for the R1 zoning, and then the second one is for the RA zoning, both applicable to the detached accessory dwelling units. We're proposing to keep those codes the same in both of those zones, and we'll dig in here. The scratched items are what staff is recommending to scratch out of the code, and the red is what we're proposing to add to the code. The first item is number 2 there. A detached accessory dwelling unit is defined as an adjunct living unit with a sleeping area, a bathroom, acceptable kitchen facility with a commercially manufactured cooking appliance, and proposing to scratch has no attached garage or carport and is detached from a primary residence on the same lot. Maybe I should backtrack as well. City Council had this on their work session the end of December, and had some recommendations as well. Staff's included those, and we're here to get Planning Commission feedback, which they wanted before they made a decision on this as well. The next change is, again, on the next number 2 there. The proposed lot for a detached accessory dwelling unit shall contain an already existing single-family dwelling unit. And we're proposing to scratch, and the lot must be a minimum of 10,000 square feet in size, which would, in essence, if they can fit it on their lot, meet setbacks and distance requirements, why not put it on the lot there? And please stop me at any time if we want to dig in and discuss and clarify any questions. Number 3, we're proposing to scratch any accessory dwelling unit on a qualifying residentially zoned lot being added to an existing single-family residence shall in no case be greater than 1,000 total square feet. The accessory dwelling unit square footage added to all other existing or future structures will not cover more than 30% of the rear yard area. And we're proposing that to read, the square footage of detached accessory dwelling units shall meet the following criteria. Attached porches and or garages are not calculated in the detached accessory dwelling unit square footage, but are calculated towards the side and rear yard percentages. The detached accessory dwelling unit square footage, when calculated together with all other existing or future structures, shall not cover more than 30% of the rear yard area or 50% of the side yard area. And that'll mirror the detached garage structure, so they're seen more just tandem together. Not much difference there. Council did recommend to go up to 1,500 square feet in size. With that, we're proposing a tiered structure system. So zones R16 through R12, we're proposing to keep it the existing 1,000 square feet in size. And then once we get to the R115 and larger zones, can then go up to 1,500 square feet of floor area there.
Alden, as Commissioner Davis, just a quick question on that. Are you omitting R2 intentionally, or is that just an oversight in that first block?
Say that one more time.
Are you omitting R2 zoning, the R2 zone intentionally? And I'm just looking at it in comparison to the general plan. When you're listing R-1-6, R, all that.
Yeah, R2 was never included in the original code. You know, in R2, in essence, it is, 2 units on the lot. So they wouldn't need a detached accessory dwelling.
Okay, so it wouldn't qualify.
By the question there.
Make sure, thanks.
This is Commissioner Uri. I also have a quick question about this one. Eldon, in your work meeting with the council, when they wanted to go up to 1,500 square feet, did they distinguish that that should be limited to R115, or was that staff who's making that distinction?
Great comments. That was a staff recommendation. I kind of caught staff off guard in that meeting. Staff had no intent to increase the square footage. It came up in that work session, and this tiered structure is just to keep some planning principles in place as we move forward. Is staff's thought there?
Why, what staff's thinking, why make that distinction if it's all the other setbacks, meets all the requirements, why not have a, if it's big enough and the yard is big enough, why not have a 3-bedroom in there instead of a 2-bedroom?
Yeah, great question there. Staff isn't too concerned with the larger lot sizes. 15,000 square foot lots, those are pretty big. A lot of the downtown area, R16. We've recently, as more residents have built garages and ADUs in their backyard, we have received complaints from those neighbors and wanting space. So, staff wanted to find that middle ground in accommodating ADUs, but yet still maintaining those planning principles as well. Welcome. It's tiered structure.
Also, at what point are we making little tiny miniature subdivisions by putting a 1,500 square foot house besides another house?
But there might be other ways to do it, like increasing the setbacks and the distance between lots that's required. Because there are plenty of larger lots that are not R115 where this wouldn't be an issue. And if we're really trying to address the housing issue, I think we need to make it possible. And so I think if there's other ways to meet that same concern without going to the broader classification of the zone, I think that would leave more options for people who, like me, have a big lot and could easily do a 1,500 square foot and provide more housing without having to go against the fighting with the zoning thing there. So I wonder if there's other ways. Did staff think about that?
You think about the R2 and not wanting to impose, an R2 and try to accommodate more of a true accessory use to the primary residence. The thinking on that? It's a valid concern, though.
What are your thoughts about, like, if you're increasing the distance between the lots, if you're increasing the setback, or whatever else is appropriate, whatever the other dynamics are, and you could do a ratio of size of the ADU in relationship to the primary dwelling unit to make sure that it's all done proportionately without having to go to the zoning classification. Because I think I know there are lots of places where it would be appropriate to have the bigger one if that's what council wants to go up to is 1,500. I think there are lots of places that'd be appropriate in R112. And so why not do that is my thought.
Yeah, other than the R112, we're just getting smaller in lot size. Yeah, we're just trying to take a broad approach and make the best policy to apply to the entire city. It's a juggle.
A lot of the R112 in town currently, even though it's zoned R112, are like half-acre lots. Almost all the ones that I've looked at that have been done recently, R112 are actually half-acre lots and are bigger than R115.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I like how clean this one is, but I'm just truly just thinking about housing and what we're trying to do. And there are lots of families who a 1,500-foot dwelling would work for that a 1,000-foot dwelling won't. And if there are appropriate places to place that, it might be worth the additional work of changing the other requirements around it rather than making it so broad in the zoning, although it is nice and easy and short, and I like that, how clear it is. But, I think if there are appropriate places where we can do this and meet other families' needs, I think we should consider it.
I think you should move R112 in with R115 on that item.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Especially if someone builds an ADU, because they're trying to rent or whatever. I mean, the only people you can rent 1,000 square foot ADU to is a single person. If the minute they get married and have one kid, they can't fit into a 1,000 square foot place. So it kind of defeats the whole purpose. I mean, 1,000 square foot thing is fine if it's your mother-in-law, but it's not fine if, say, your kid and their wife and child want to live somewhere, and it just doesn't work. and you won't even be able to rent it. Like, it has no rental value because it's too small. So I think you should put R112 in with R115.
It's an interesting discussion. In the R16 zone, so let's say we got a neighborhood that's zoned R16. It's also possible that you get a lot that's the same size as an R112 or an R115 lot. So within the lots that created, there's also size variability. And so one of the planning concepts that I think Ellen was referencing is there might be enough space. We don't want you to be able to make a house that's bigger than all your neighbors just because you ended up with the big lot, right? And so there's a little bit of a uniformity and consistency principle at play there too. But again, I think this is good commentary, and I think the city council will appreciate it.
I mean, most R16 lots, you're not gonna be able to put a ADU on anyways. There's not gonna be room unless it just happens to be a big lot in an R16. Even R18, you're really not gonna have room to put an ADU on either. So we're really talking about R110, R112, R115 for the most part.
Because it does feel like we're starting to see more of the request for the R16, R18 in the subdivisions we're seeing come at us.
And there's nothing to say that they shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's just practicality wise, there's just not gonna be space for it, so.
I don't think you're gonna find the space, but
Like, I just think, what if it was based on lot size and size of and ratio to size of the primary dwelling? You know, I think if that was the category, then there are a lot of people who would be able to offer more housing within the existing infrastructure that we have, rather than having to go out to other new subdivisions and all that additional infrastructure and cost and all that.
Great feedback. Notes in there. Moving on to number 4 there. All detached accessory dwelling units shall be limited to a maximum of 17 feet in height, and in no case shall the roof exceed the height of the existing residence. Proposing that to be scratched and replaced with the following. The height of detached accessory dwelling units shall meet the following criteria, with the same tiered structure there. R16 through the R112. 17 feet in height, which is existing code. And, if you're recommending to pull the R112 down to the larger, I'll make that same note here to drop that down, the R112 to be included with the R115 and larger, with a side or rear setback of 3 feet. The detached accessory dwelling unit shall be limited to a maximum of 20 feet. Additional height may be acquired by moving the building into the lot. For each foot added to the side and or rear yard setback beyond 3 feet, an additional foot may be added to the height of the building, but in no case shall the detached accessory dwelling unit be taller than 25 feet tall. So in essence, if a unit's set at 3 feet, they're maxed at 20 foot tall. And then if they go in a foot, so it's 4 feet off the property line, they could then go up to 21 foot and so on. But in no case can they be taller than 25 feet.
Eldon, I have a question on that one. Just, I don't know why, but what if it's a walkout basement? Is it 25 feet from the front, from the street view? Is that what it is? I just wanted to clarify. Property line on the front, correct?
Well, that's where the house height is taken from. The
Okay.
ADU would be taken from grade.
So if you were building a shop underneath it and you build a ADU on top, it can't be over 25 or 17 feet. So you still can't have a shop underneath. And then if you had a walkout basement, you couldn't have something underneath it for storage. And then street height wouldn't count because you'd go from grade of where?
If the ADU is visible from the street, the height would be taken from street view.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, is it is from street view.
Correct.
Okay.
Should probably clarify that in there. Probably should clarify that.
Yeah.
The height.
The height was just that it was from street view.
Measured from the,
If you had a walkout basement and you build an apartment in your backyard, if it's street view, so you got the distance of your basement plus the 17 feet? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's how I would see it.
So that's why you're saying
Also-
clarify.
so it's not like you could make
Yeah, but if you had just parking underneath it,
You could do parking
I
underneath
mean,
it.
we're going to get into this all night.
So this is the great roof height debate. Applies to a lot, not so much on accessory dwelling units as it is just on the original structure. And usually the builder and owner want to measure from a different location than maybe the city does. And so we've adopted a code that's essentially established how we measure building heights and I don't remember it offhand as far as verbatim, but essentially it looks at a couple of points, tries to take the street height, but also indicates actual points of reference that are going to be uniform throughout every lot, and then draws a line and measures from there on up. And so we've got a code that tells us how to measure that, and I'm sure we could debate that all again many times.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, the best example is when you're downhill from a walkout basement property, it looks way bigger than it might from when you're walking up to their front door, right? And it's because you're on a slope that's lower than where the enters, right? And so perspective of where you're looking really changes how you measure that.
Number 5, proposing to remove detached accessory dwelling units shall be located at least 10 feet away from the existing single-family residence and can be located no closer than 5 feet to any side or rear property line. You know, those setbacks were addressed above. We're proposing, let's get a little closer to the property line, up to 3 feet, and removing the 10-foot separation from the existing house. And it'll read, the setbacks of detached accessory dwelling units shall not be closer than 3 feet to any side or rear property line, and in accordance with the criteria of this chapter, corner lots shall maintain the required street frontage setback applicable to the zoning designation at the proposed location. Number 6, proposing to remove or scratch the wording of one additional on-site parking space shall be provided in addition to the required parking standards for the single-family residential lot. The parking space shall be a minimum of 9 feet wide and 19 feet long, replacing it with the proposed on-site parking shall be provided in addition to the single-family residential requirements in accordance with the following criteria: 1 stall for 1,000 square feet, and 2 additional spaces for units exceeding 1,000 square feet. And that concludes the proposed changes there. Happy to answer any follow-up questions you may have.
Alvin, why does this say residential agricultural? Is this just for RA zone, or was that a typo?
We're proposing to amend both
This is RA and the next.
sections. They're both the same,
Okay, that was
those changes. Yes.
This is Commissioner Ure, and I just want to reiterate a similar comment to what I made before, that I really think that we will get more response to this. There will be little pockets of additional people who can do this if this was based more on lot size and the size of the primary residence rather than zoning, because there are so many different sizes and scopes and scales and neighborhoods that are zoned one way. And I think that I don't think we need to paint with that broad of a brush if we can address the concerns in that other way. I think it will end up having the result of many, many more of these being able to come in, and bigger ones where it's appropriate. So I just wanted to reiterate that comment.
So if you could change this, rather than identifying the R16, you would say, let's identify a 6,000. Let's put a square footage to the lot size.
And maybe the primary residence size as well, just to kind of keep it in scale. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of variation in lot sizes, and I love the ADU thing that we're doing. I think it's going to meet a lot of people's needs. I'm thinking about it because I'm personally preparing to build an ADU on my property, and the ADU on my property, I could go bigger. I'm on an acre, but I would be limited by this. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. And so, yeah, I think basing it on the lot size in conjunction with the home size or something else that, would be appropriate to keep it in scale, I think that there are pockets of neighborhoods where we'll see a lot more of it.
Yeah, what's the overall consensus on that? The planning commissioners, we see eye to eye, or?
He's right. The problem is policing it is a little bit harder. It's easier to issue permits based on zoning. But he is right. I mean, he might have an acre lot and it might be in an R110 zone who knows? So it obviously, in theory and in practice, it works better if you're dictated by how much room you have on the lot, which we already have percentages and so forth that dictate that. It might just be harder for you guys to police is all. That's the only drawback to doing it that way.
I think square footage for the main home is already record, so maybe take that into consideration, percentage of that.
I think maybe you could say, and again, this is maybe open up a can of worms, but maybe you could have exceptions for lots that are significantly larger than what their zoning are, that they could be reviewed on a case-by-case basis or something like that. I don't know.
I think that would work. Yeah, that way you can.
We don't have to change the whole entire code.
Yeah, 'cause I get
Like, hey, I
the-
have a 1 acre lot and I'm on an R110.
Yeah.
I want to do 1,500 square feet.
I think
You still have to meet the percentages of side yard, backyard, all that, which still limits what you can put back there.
Yeah, I just think that should apply also to the height as well as the size, all of it. I think it'll keep it proportionate, but I like that idea. It keeps it easier to enforce, but it creates an exception for everybody else who wants to do
Because
that.
there's not a lot that'll be that way. I mean, you'll have, like you're saying, you'll have the pockets of it, but if someone wants to come in and apply and go through the process of whatever that is,
So-
asking for an exemption because it met those rules, and just because it's in that zone doesn't mean it'll fall that way. I like that. I mean, it puts more burden on staff, but they got enough to do, right?
Yeah, so would staff then govern those situations, right? Or does that have to
Yeah.
come before the planning commission? And then you have 1,000 more applicants because of the situation?
I don't think you'll have very many, but I think it will help in, the few instances where you got some strange lot that's just zoning.
Is there a way to structure so that staff has authority to allow that based on the exemptions and it doesn't need to come through committee and all that kind of stuff? Why not just make it?
Have specific.
Yeah, it'd have to meet.
It's a little harder.
Yeah, it would be difficult to manage. Yeah, and I worry, about going away from the uniformity. Someone buys into a R110 zone, R18 zone. It's
But how about this? You could say, you could have exceptions if that they can qualify for, say, the R115, the larger size, the 1,500, if the lot size is equivalent to an R115 or like,
Yeah,
it just lets them bump up one zone thing if the lot size is big enough to fit in an R115.
need an additional permit or anything.
Right.
Just like, you can still fit just by looking at the law and it fits into.
Like, hey, my lot would have been R115 or it would have been bigger. Let you just, because then it's not an unlimited amount, it just lets you bump up one category.
so just based off of lot size.
Just like, these are the categories, but then you just say, you can apply for variance to go to the next category above if your lot size is equal to or greater than the R115 size, or
When-
R112, if we make it R112.
Why not just authorize it instead of making it go to variance?
Yeah, you're right.
Authorize it,
So if
these are the
the lot
cat-
size is the
you should-
same size as R112, R115, whatever is our bigger category, then it can qualify for the bigger category.
Yeah, I like
That's,
that.
Yeah, great feedback, note taken there. Okay. Comments, suggestions? Thank you.
This is a public hearing, right? So I'll open this up to the public hearing if you'd like to come up and speak.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Kerry Chamberlain. I live at 138 North, 100 East, basically right across the street from you here. This is my primary reason for being here tonight. We've lived in Washington we've lived in the St. George area for 40 years. We've lived in Washington for 35 years. We've lived in the current house for about 27 years. Raised all my daughters here, and when we moved to St. George, there was Harmon's and Albertsons were the only two grocery stores, and I think Kmart was just starting in that new plaza down there. So that gives you a little bit of history of, I think St. George proper was about 35,000 people back then. So when we purchased this property from the Stapleys years ago, there weren't any fences around the property. It was grapevines and those kinds of things. All of the lots up and down the street here were meticulous grass lots. Nobody had dirt lots or anything like that. Those people unfortunately aged out, and some have sold, and some of their children have taken over the properties. So we've seen kind of a decline in what things look like. A good friend of mine, Burke Staley, said one time that good fences make good neighbors. And as soon as our neighbors started to pile up piles of car tires and these kinds of things, why we put up some nice vinyl fences so that we could keep our backyard looking nice, and we could be presentable, and we could have family gatherings and events. And I think Mr. Mitchell and his now wife, I think, came to some parties in my backyard at one time when I was over some youth programs years ago. A few years ago, my neighbor 2 doors down from me, if you can just bear with me, there's a point to all this. He said, I'm surprised at the height of this metal building that's gone up behind my property. And I says, yeah, I am too. That's now built right up against the property line, and that now becomes part of my backyard vision, is this steel building that's going up. And so I called Mayor Nilsson, and I said, hey, I'm concerned that this guy is building this. He's already poured the slab, and it's right up against the property line. And he's already building the building. Does it even meet code? And by the time they got the code person out there, apparently, the building was built. And the message that I got from Mayor Nilsson was that it doesn't meet code and it doesn't meet the offset, but there's not really anything we can do right now because the building has been built. I'm like, well, what do you do? Well, so we feed our oleanders more, we do what Disneyland does, right? You just cover it up. So I talked my neighbor into letting the pomegranate trees grow higher so we don't have to look at this guy's building. So in the winter, we get to look at his building and all the other buildings I'm going to talk about here in a minute in the industrial downtown Washington. I'm being very sarcastic, but it's starting to remind me of what it looks like up behind Wendy's in St. George. So apparently there was nothing that we could do about that. Then not too long after that, a neighbor, not directly behind us, but just up one lot, but that's still part of his lot is adjacent to our lot, built a big blue steel building that's bigger than the building down here. And the message that I got was that the codes had changed now, and I'm seeing that happen again. We've gone tonight, I'm shocked. I have to tell you, I am shocked to hear that we're going from a 5-foot offset to a 3-foot offset. You can't even swing. If my neighbor built a fence, this guy's back door would open and hit the fence. Do you realize? It's not so much about the building. It's what other people have to look at. So this blue building over here is half one color, half another color. I'm not sure what they do in the building. to be honest with you. We've dealt with people having residences and people living in trailers, and we've had to call and have people come out and kick people out of living in residences behind their houses, which I guess isn't code. Nevertheless, tonight I just took a quick accounting just because I want you to get a feel. There are 14 vehicles parked outside of this building. Now, these aren't vehicles being worked on. These are stored vehicles. There's a pile of tires that's probably 20 foot around and maybe about 8 or 10 feet high, big black tires, 14 vehicles. One is a bread truck that maybe they're going to turn it into something, I don't know. So that happened. 2 properties up now, so that's the building with the 14 cars. Now the second property up to that now is building another building, steel building structure that's higher than the blue steel building structure now, which I'm uptight a little bit because my pecan tree can't hide all that, and then I'm gonna have to plant something else to hide all that. And I called about it and just said, I'm surprised. What are the codes? Does it even meet code? Because Mayor Nilsen said that this and that's about, seems like it's 6 or 8 feet shorter, didn't meet code back then. And it's very evident to me that the codes are changing. And I'm hearing that tonight, that we're saying, let's move them closer to the property lines and let's let them go bigger. And I think I heard you say that if they move further away from the line, they can even go higher. Did I misunderstand that? Well, maybe I misunderstood that. Nevertheless, they're in the midst of building another steel structure next to the other steel structure that's higher than those. And so that's my concern. There was a comment made earlier about that maybe people don't want to come to Washington because we're making it too hard, and for them to come in or to build, and so they're going to go somewhere else. If you go to the Walmart in Hurricane, they have nice tree landscaping in their parking lot. If you go to the Walmart in Bloomington, they have nice tree landscaping in their parking lot. If you go to ours, there are no tree landscaping in the parking lot. I remember all that debate. I don't know how many of you were around, but if I go to Santa Clara, they've got nice trees down their middle drive. If I go to St. George, they've got nice tree landscaping down their middle drive. I remember the debate that we had here about the trees going down the middle of our telegraph. And people didn't want it because it might block the view of their businesses and what have you. But I appreciate the slowing down a little bit and being intentional about what we're planning and what we're trying to do. I think people will come, and I want to support that. Now, I'm going back a little bit, but when I complained to Mayor Staley about this, he sent out your code person to check on that second building that I told you, the bigger structure, the tallest of the 3. And apparently he called me back. He was very nice. I can't remember his name. Can you tell me who it was? Anyway, the mayor called him and said, could you please go check on this? And he did, and he called me back. He was very nice and professional, and he said, it meets code. And so I complained a little bit, and I just said, my gosh, is there a code for how high I can build a fence to have to hide the steel structures that are right up against my property line? This is the view. And he says, Kerry, we're just trying to provide housing for our kids and family who need additional housing. And I said, I am all about the casitas. I'm all about we have a 1/2 acre lot. If we wanted to, we could plow a driveway and we could apply and plow a driveway and put a casita. I suppose, I'm hearing that maybe we could do that in our backyard. I would like to see if these people are going to house their kids and family. Maybe they are in these steel structures. I'm being sarcastic and I shouldn't be, but I don't think the steel structures are in that same category as casitas and living structures for families and whatnot. I would just ask that you would consider that. I find it very hard to believe that any of you, maybe some of you have a large steel structure, and maybe some of your neighbors have done that, but I just find it hard to believe that any of you would be happy if somebody built a 25-foot. The one I measured the other day, the first one was 16 foot. The other two, one is higher than that, and then the other one's higher than that. You can see them. I took pictures tonight. I took pictures of all the cars and the tires and the convex storage containers. We can hide those behind a fence. I will tell you that the tendency for individuals that have the larger properties, at least where I live, is to put things right up against the fence. It's not, there's not an offset. It's like they want to, and I don't blame them, they want to get the most storage out of what they do, and what they're trying to do with their shops and whatnot. So I love people to be able to use their property for what they want, but I just would encourage you to, as you're thinking through this process of what things look like and the profile of things and what we want our downtown Washington to look like eventually. We know, don't we, what's happened in the past when we've moved on things and then they were torn down and covered with dirt. You all remember this, right? The cement slab right down here, that there was so many complaints that Mayor Nielsen had him haul in truckloads of dirt to cover up the cement to make it look like a vacant lot. Do you remember that, right? That happened. And, I'm not blaming anybody, but I think it's important as we take these steps to do it like you're doing and slow down the process, or at least be a little bit more intentional, because I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I just wanted to just share some feelings from someone who, I guess what I'm using my backyard for are family events and celebrations and these kinds of things, and it's not for storing cars and making shops in my backyard. And I don't have anything against somebody that's doing that, as long as it doesn't turn into some kind of an industrial looking area. And that's what it feels like to me. One real quick thing and then I'll sit down. I got my bachelor's degree in sociology and a minor in sociology and a major in psychology and a master's in social work. All of our textbooks talk about what happens to the city center. The city center starts out with the affluent. This is hundreds of years old. The affluent, they live close to the city, but the more money they make, they start to move out and they move out and they move out. And then the city center turns into what? It deteriorates. And the more affluent move further away. They have the ability to drive and to commute and to come into town. Well, now we're seeing the same things happening in St. George. They're trying to what? Rehabilitate the downtown area. That's what they want, to bring people back downtown. People don't want to go downtown. There's nothing down there. Everything's run down, but there's building apartments and different things to rehabilitate the downtown. And it just, I don't know, it feels like maybe we're in that process. I'm just seeing deterioration of properties and lack of code enforcement, and bigger structures and these kinds of things that I think eventually, people would want to move away from. I don't know. So I just wanted to share that with you. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, or any clarifications. I've spoken too long, but that's how I'm feeling. And I feel like you should take some of those things into consideration. I think I'll tell you right now, I think the 3 foot is far too close. I think people have a tendency to want to build right on the line. And I don't even know if a door could swing open without hitting somebody's fence if they're sitting on a 3 foot. And that's what people do. If they have a half acre, they want to take advantage of their space, and they're going to build on the line. That's what they'll do, because I've seen it, so.
Thank you.
Sherry Tate. So I just want to kind of echo what he said and what I said earlier about the hodgepodge. I'm trying to understand all these new changes and why. I understand, you have property and you could build something, but I'm like 25 feet, like, I know they're not all metal buildings and I've seen some improvement, but Washington City was known as the pretty little town. And where Carrie's referring to is this road right here on where the city office is. You drive up, this was the pristine, beautiful thing, and we are getting away from that. And we can say, oh yeah, it's changed, but we go into pretty little towns like Richfield and those where everybody's still kind of maintaining that look. And so some of these things I'm trying to understand. Like, I understand casitas, I understand like we have a big lot, because there were really big lots. Like my mom and I were talking, we had an acre and it's still there, and behind this home that we lived in, it's a big garden spot and they could build apartments and something. But I'm just trying to understand, like, are you just getting so much, like, we want to build this big 2-story whatever in our backyard? Like, I don't know how you could even do this if you could, but like to match roof lines even, or make things, consistent with what's there and not get so where you drive into town. Like, I'll use the airplane hangar that's now the furniture store. Like, when that went in, I was like, what are we doing on our Telegraph Street? So I don't know. I just think, I know people have property and they have rights, but let's be really, again, thoughtful on our pretty little town and what we're allowing to come in and take away from our, Carrie's backyard or my backyard. I had a chicken coop build up, but that's a whole other story. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion of this. And look for recommendation on this, guys. Or if you have anything else you want to add to it.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I'm curious. I mean, I get the statements that were made. So an accessory, the ADU, accessory dwelling unit, be a shed, a shop, a garage.
Not necessarily. It has to be a dwelling unit, it has to be built to provide the minimum features of a dwelling unit. There's got to be plumbing, there's got to be kitchen, commercial kitchen.
Okay, so
So a metal building with a hot plate approved for an accessory dwelling.
accessory dwelling. Okay, I wanted to make that clear because that was my
So
thoughts, was when you're building an accessory dwelling unit, you're meant to dwell in there. It's not to store or to a garage or a metal structure. It is a residence.
now, does that guarantee the occupants right in there? It would need to be built to the technical specifications for a dwelling unit. Now, if they just want to store stuff there, there is an accessory garage. There are other accessory buildings that can qualify on a residential lot that could store stuff. And so this one is looking at the accessory dwelling unit provisions, specifically detached units, but there's attached dwelling units that we've got some of those that are happening that probably would have similar discussions, because the attached unit and the original structure from the 80s look very different, right?
Yeah.
And shapes and sizes. And so
And
this one will also require that there be the standard living features of a dwelling house or apartment, right? So bedrooms, bathrooms, cooking facilities.
And there's no way to really govern the type of material that they build those out of unless you live in a HOA.
City could adopt that, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
It hasn't?
I mean, in this case, we don't have to do some big broad adoption, but a simple line about being of the same character and quality as the primary residence. And I know that that makes it a little more expensive to build. I think that's a pretty good compromise. Like it does affect the neighborhood by having more density, having more stuff, and I understand the need for housing. It does seem like we should put something in there about being of the same character and nature as the existing residents. I think that would be a good long-term move.
No, I completely agree, because you don't want them dropping sea containers, see in other places. There are, I can see this being problematic for HOAs.
Well, and I mean, probably what's going on here is somebody's using the ADU code to build a big old shed, and they're putting a toilet in, they're putting a stove in, and that's it. And like, then it's all storage. And so I think we should get in front of that and add an additional requirement about the aesthetic of it with.
You can also build a storage unit. You don't have to put a toilet in a sink. Either, so.
Yeah, you can build a steel building behind your house.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
it doesn't have to be an ADU.
Right.
So you can't really stop that unless your HOA has something to say about that.
I mean,
And there's some pretty nice barn dominiums.
you can go different ways. I mean, like Hurricane, for example, they don't do anything, and they do have some really odd looking random things in the backyard built out of all sorts of materials. St. George, their code now has it where it's got to be built out of the same materials as the house, at least if it's an ADU. Personally, I wouldn't build one that didn't look, good or didn't look like it went with house, but plenty of people would. But that, I mean, that's an example of two ways to do it. As far as the height, I mean, I was really trying to wrap my head around this based on, what he was saying, just doing the numbers. So 17-foot height, just so everybody understands what that means. That doesn't mean the walls are 17 feet tall. That means that the roof, the top of the peak of the roof is 17 feet tall, which is a one-story house at 9 feet with a 712 pitch roof. So it's like a little teeny house. Plus you got a 6-foot tall block wall, and you're only going to see 3 feet of the wall, and the rest of it is a peaked roof going up. In his circumstance, if it's taller than that, they've obviously got something built not to code or whatever that's a lot taller than that.
Or it's a shed.
But what we're talking about here, or a shed that's the taller code or something. But what we're talking here, 17 feet is 9-foot ceiling, 712 pitch roof, one level thing. The 25-foot, that does get a little bigger. If it's a one-level house, that would allow someone to do a 12 pitch roof. Like, let's say they're trying to match their house or whatever, if that's what their house has. But again, you're still starting at your normal wall height going up to a peaked roof. The only way you would get something that looks like really, really tall, and I have seen some people build some of these, close to the line and so forth, would be if they put a garage with an ADU above it. You can barely squeeze it in 25 feet, but you're talking a 9-foot garage, 12-foot floor, 12-inch floor trusses, an 8-foot ceiling, and a 612 roof. So it can be done, but it's a stretch, and I have seen some people do it. So if you go to the 25-foot thing, then that could be possible. And if you don't want to have ADUs above garages, then the 25-foot thing is what's allowing that.
I could chirp in, approved at 25 feet, we will see 2-story ADUs being built.
Right. I'm just, but it can only be 1,000 square
Only
feet
1,000,
or
or maybe
1,500 square feet. But the garage, over a garage, it kind of depends if your backyard drops off. That's why I asked about the elevation of the street line.
Well, again, if you're talking 25 feet,
It's also got to be in too, though, to get that 25 foot, right? It can't be on the 3 foot. You got to come over so far in order to get the height of it. So it's going to help, and that's on all setbacks, not just. So I mean, it does help.
To get 25 feet, you're going to have to be 10 feet in, which ironically, if you're 10 feet in from the property line, then it's the same setbacks as a regular residential house, which can be 35 feet tall. So, I mean, still within the realm of normal. And in the code, it does say that the roof can't be higher than the existing house. It can't be bigger than the existing house. You can't have more people live in it than the existing house. I mean, there's already a bunch of that stuff there.
Yeah.
So,
And the stuff that's happening downtown, I mean, that's,
that's not to say that your neighbor didn't do something totally random, but
and that's also the problem with not having the good and the bad of having HOAs. You know, nothing here in the old part of town has HOAs.
Just to clarify, to get 25 feet, they could go 8 feet off the property line.
Okay.
3 feet's 20 foot.
But again, at 10 feet, you could attach it to the house and go 35 feet, so, with existing code.
I'm curious if there are any concerns on, or opinions from the council on, similar to what St. George has, where there's a little bit of governance for the aesthetic, where it needs to align with the existing materials of the primary residence.
I think you could say that with the ADU, I mean, but you're still gonna have people build sheds.
The shed thing, I don't think we can deal with that tonight. That's a whole separate issue, and we can't, but this code right here, I think we can.
Every place that has an HOA is gonna require that anyways. It's that big of a stretch. But then also HOAs aren't gonna allow you to build an ADU anyways, so.
Yeah. It would hurt. I think it might help, and I think we want people to use this, and we want it to be perceived favorably. You know, I like telling my community members about it, even though it means that more density in my neighborhood, because there's such a need for housing for our kids and their kids. I think it's a really
You
great
don't want it to look terrible either.
maneuver, and I want it to look good. I want it to have a good feel. I want people to be excited about it and get on board with it and not be complaining that somebody put up a double wide out there, which they could do. I don't think we want to do that. So I think a line in there about the aesthetic aligning with the original materials of the home would be a good idea.
I think it's not a bad idea.
No, I concur, same material, similar look and feel as the primary residence.
Use though. Have to do a traffic.
Great comments. I'll make a note there on that, making it structure.
So the other concern that, that Carrie had was the setbacks. That one I think I'm kind of mixed on, right? Because you do, when you have a subdivision, you'll have a 10-foot or, you know, the 5-foot or whatever, but I have built ADUs on people's property where you had to come in to the planning commission to get the approval to push closer. And then it was the neighborhood came, and if none of the neighbors cared, great, it went up. Here, it seems, if I'm reading this right, we eliminate that portion, right? You're just automatically allowed to go up to 3 feet to the property lines, right? Is there any concern about that?
I mean, for the most part, on any R110 or R112 lot, if you don't have a 3-foot setback, you're not gonna be able to fit it. I mean, Washington City is the only city in the county that does not allow a 3-foot setback. Every other city in the county has been 3-foot setback for a long time on ADUs.
And I think going back to if we govern the type of materials that are used and it looks like a home, it's probably not as intrusive as, yeah, an ugly industrial shed right on the property line.
all right, we'll look for a motion on it.
As Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of 9-8B-7 detached accessory dwelling unit. Are we on the residential agriculture or the
9-8A-8.
backwards in the packet? 9-8A-8. With the recommendation that we talked about of moving R112 in with the R115 category, and also having an exception that says if a lot is the same size as a larger category, that it can qualify for the same standards, even if it's zoned differently. And then also to add add I don't know what the word, category, whatever, that says that ADUs will be constructed out of similar materials to the house.
What do you say, yeah, to similar, however it,
Well,
You only get two in the weeds, just similar materials.
carry the same look and feel, same general look.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, adding that phrase I think helps.
It just gets hard to determine that, that's all I'm saying. You're getting into architectural stuff, you're just like, hey, the house is stucco and stone and tile roof.
So rather than saying similar, what, can we just say out of the same material? Same material as the home? Yeah, not similar,
You
same.
want any more than that, then all of a sudden, somebody's got to be the architectural committee trying to review it, and
Yeah, so same material as the home. Yeah, I like it.
So I have a second.
Commissioner Davis seconds.
First by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou. Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Item 40 is a public hearing consideration to the City Council of amending the Title 9-B, 98B-7 detached accessory dwelling unit.
can I make a suggestion? After we open it and close public comment, can we just adopt the same that we did for the one previously?
Yes, I agree.
It's everything's the same,
Everything's
correct?
identical?
Goals,
Okay.
adopt the same motion.
Let's just open it up, close it, and adopt the same.
Eldon, you don't need to go over it again, right?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll open a public hearing on this one. It's exactly the same. We don't have to say everything again, though. All right, we'll close the public hearing portion of this and look for a motion.
Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of 9-8B-7, detached accessory dwelling unit for single-family residential with the exact same additional conditions as previous.
This is Commissioner Mitchell, I second.
I have a first and a second. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou.
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Item 5 is adjournment.
This Commissioner Mitchell, I move that we adjourn.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll give it a second. Land Use Authority. For Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. We will start with the approval of the agenda. If I can get a motion for the approval of the agenda.
This is Commissioner Mitchell. I move that we approve the agenda for January 7th Land Use Authority meeting.
Commissioner Davis seconds.
I have a first by Commissioner Mitchell, second by Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes from the December 17th, 2025 meeting.
Commissioner Davis, I move that we approve the minutes from December 17th.
Commissioner Mitchell, I second.
First by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Mitchell. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have any, the declaration of abstentions or conflicts? Does anyone have them tonight?
No.
Okay. Item 4 is a preliminary plat for the Preserve of Atalaya, phases 5 and 6 subdivision located approximately Washington Fields and Capistrano Avenue. I'm sure I said that wrong. And we'll turn this is the one that was, this is what we tabled, and we'll turn this over to Sebastian.
All right, thank you. So I'm not going to review the whole project, but essentially the last meeting that was tabled due to concerns regarding the narrowing of Trestles Lane towards the west, sort of narrows down. And yeah, so this is for the phases 5 and 6 subdivision, Washington Fields Road. It was 61 lots covering an area of 8.26 acres of land, PCD, and the applicant is here to kind of answer your questions about that.
Did we have our public hearing on this already last time? Okay, just making sure. We don't have to do it again.
Brandy Walker with Civil Science representing the applicant, and I apologize, commissioners. I was en route last meeting to this meeting. I had a family emergency, and I thought this would be a no-brainer. My clients are going to kill me, so I'm apologizing on their behalf as well. But appreciate Sebastian and staff holding it down. But I can answer that quick little thing. This exhibit looks like a scan, so we've lost a lot of the background data on it, so it's kind of hard to see. But so Trestles Lane, where it narrows down at that dead-end stub, we do that because a lot of it's the fire department's preference. This is a narrow drive, it's 30 feet wide. So there's no parking within these private drives. But as you can see, all the townhome units have driveways, so you can't park in front of a driveway regardless. So we post non-parking signs. What you're not seeing is the south side will have driveways as well because there'll be units along it. But when we have these dead-end stubs, there's no driveways in the future right there. It's single loaded. So we narrow them down so people don't park there because there's no driveways to kind of keep the average person from blocking a driveway and parking. So Eldon, or who's ever controlling, if you could pan to the north, we can see that phase 3, but see, we've lost the image, but it's right, I'm gonna walk away from the mic, filming it right here. We're doing the same thing right here, you just can't see it. So I don't know why the line, this is just a bad scan, but this is common practice. So the phase 3 I'm pointing to is approved, built, well, it's almost built. Gilbert's chugging away out there. You guys, at the final plat's been submitted to the city. So this is common practice in those private alleys that are single loaded dead end where a fire truck will not be accessing to neck it down to prevent further parking.
So on the other side of Trestle Lane is going to be driveways as well.
On the, where it's 30 feet wide, yes. Where it necks down in front of 512 to 516, no.
You can actually, Ellen, you can actually see on the other drawing, you can see the step down on the one above that Brandy was pointing
It's
at.
just really hard. Yeah, these are bad images.
On, which page is that? It's actually the one just underneath the colored site plan. Where it has,
Is it shown on the PCD overlay? Right, it'll be right
To the
underneath
right.
that star.
right
Okay.
on this one. Nope, the one you,
Yeah, that's covering it.
right there, on this one, you can. Actually, I don't know if you're looking at the same one I'm looking at. Yours show different. Anyway, I can see it on.
Yeah,
You
it's
can see the
Sheet
dash.
3 of 3.
Actually, 1 of 3.
yeah, this is just a bad scan. It doesn't look good. It's hard to see. But right where Eldon has the cursor.
Yeah,
it's
right
still
where
in
your
that,
cursor
yeah.
is.
Oh, there you go. That one looks
If you
better.
zoom in closer, okay,
Yeah,
there you can
perfect.
see the dash line.
Yeah. See, you aren't going to park in front of somebody's driveway in the road, so when we don't have that situation going on, people tend to park there, and the fire truck won't pull in there to fight a fire. Yeah, it's literally like you take this and mirror it down. It'll be a side load again, going south, and then single-family lots on, these are beach names, Capistrano, Redondo, the surf vibe, on going down the next phase over to the south.
Okay, so Brandy, just to be clear, you're going to mirror it then? And because part of the questions we had was what's going on to the south?
Yeah, I'm gonna walk with the mic, sorry. It's gonna, if you put up and down, this town lane will sit here, and this road will continue down, so driveways will be here. And then lots, single family will be on this side facing that road, which is what we, so the mirror is kind of what's above us in the phase 3 portion, as we move down. Visionaries flying out there.
So in this situation, Brandy, did the cars park across the street from apartments like 512, 513? Will you typically see cars parked along that, even though it is shrunk down?
So all of Visionary's product that they're building are 2-car garages. These are rear fronted. So with the doors, rear loaded garage with the door on the front. So if you zoom
So
back
that's
in
the
really
back-
close.
The back, sorry, I'm so looking,
Yeah,
you're looking at the
there's,
backyard.
you can see there's a light line through the unit. Those are garages. So every single unit has a 2-car garage as well as a 20-foot driveway. Visionary knows their end user, and even though code doesn't, we're overkill, we've got way more parking because theoretically every unit has 4 stalls. 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. And then as well as this is a multifamily project, and so as this starts to progress out, you'll see additional on-street parking or designated parking that's loaded on the street itself, but not in the street. We can't park in the streets in the multifamily portion due to the width.
Okay.
I know there's a
I think
fire
that was-
protection plan is included in the packet, and the fire chief has us signing it
So these are no parking on the streets?
Correct.
Is that what you just said?
in the multifamily portion. Across the way are single-family lots. So
So
those
we're
are
in the multifamily park right now.
correct.
So these narrow lots are going to be no
No.
parking on the streets? Is that
No,
what you're
phase
saying?
6 is single-family. These are 50-foot publics. You have 2 different, actually I have 3 different road sizes shown right here. So the main road coming in that accesses the development is a standard 50-foot right-of-way, which allows parking. There you go.
Right, but the 30-foot does not
Does
allow
not
parking.
allow parking.
That's what I was,
Gotcha, correct, no.
okay.
Okay. I think that was the explanation we were looking for.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, those are the questions I had. So, thank you.
Okay.
Look for motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of the preliminary plat for the Preserve at Alea, phases 5 and 6 subdivision located approximately Washington Fields Road and Capistrano Avenue, subject to findings and conditions in staff report. And I believe this goes,
This is Commissioner Mitchell, I second.
And first by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Mitchell. Individual voting, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Tupou.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Bullock. I'm an aye as well. This is approved. Item 5 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.